A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation. The eternal light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Today's story is based on Gotthold Lessing's dramatic poem, Nathan the Wise, and was written for radio by Ben Kagan. Featured in the cast are Will Geer as Nathan and Raymond Edward Johnson as the Sultan.
The sword comes into the world for the delay of justice and for the perversion of justice, and on account of the offense of those who do not interpret the Scriptures according to their true value.
Bear this thought in mind, listener, as we tell you today a story from antiquity concerning a sultan who pitted one religion against another, proclaiming his to be the truest, and concerning a Jew who judged not alone, for none may judge alone save one. The Sultan's name was Saladin. He was a fearless warrior. He loved children and was widely known for his honesty and wisdom. He had one burning prejudice. He was hostile toward infidels and many times proclaimed,
Let us purge the air, for the air they breathe.
During the Third Crusade in the latter half of the 12th century, Saladin's armies were storming the kingdom of Tyre, while on a windy hill behind the battle lines, the Sultan impatiently awaited the outcome of the siege.
There should be news. Why is there no news? Why no word from the generals? Is it possible, Hoffley, that the enemy was stronger than anticipated, that they had set a trap, played a trick?
It is still early, Saladin. The sun...
It is early or late, depending on the interpretation one makes of time.
Whoa!
Huh?
Sire, there's a lieutenant coming from the front.
At last.
He's bringing prisoners with him. 4 Templars who looked the worst for battle.
Good.
Poor devils, I pity them.
Come, Hoffley. For a royal treasurer, you have strange thoughts.
I only meant I pity their fate. They are so young.
The young are no less wicked than the old.
Greetings, Saladin.
Greetings. Now, what news?
The infidels are retreating, sire. On your instructions, the army is pursuing, driving them into the sea.
Thanks be to God. So falls the last stronghold of the Latin Empire. Our task is almost done.
These prisoners, sire, the first of the infidels to be captured. I brought them with me so that you yourself may have the pleasure to decree their fate.
Have them beheaded. They're good for nothing else.
Yes, sire.
No. Oh, wait. Want to question them first. Bring them closer.
Come closer and face the Sultan. Move!
Infidels, you see now that your cause is lost. I give you my word, nothing will save you except one thing. Adopt the Muslim religion. You see, I am a merciful man. A man who believes in justice and bears no grudge against his enemies. Adopt the Muslim religion and you live. Speak up and make your choice.
Speak and answer the Sultan.
We will not adopt the Muslim religion.
You prefer to be beheaded then?
We prefer not to adopt the Muslim religion. We have our own.
Very well. You've made your choice. I'll suffer for it. Behead them.
Move, infidels, move, you unbelievers!
Well, that is done.
Yes, that is done. Poor devils.
Perhaps tomorrow or the next day we shall return to Jerusalem where we can concern ourselves with peaceful matters.
Yes, that will be a pleasant change. I much prefer to look at wine than blood.
You are squeamish, Harvey. You sometimes act but What's that? Are those the horns?
Methinks they are. The signal.
Then the moment has come. It has really come. Victory is ours. The Templars have been routed and victory is ours.
A fortnight later, Saladin's victorious army marched into Jerusalem. The people welcomed the conqueror, the man who had defeated the infidels and united the unruly East. The streets were festive, the beggars flocking from all directions. The citizenry proud, they too becoming heroic in their adulation. For doesn't the iron pot want silver tongs to draw her from the furnace, that she may dream she's made of silver too? But at the palace gates, the picture changed. It changed not for the people, but for the Sultan. The Grand Vizier had startling, shocking news.
It is about your sister, Sita, Saladin.
Was she ill? Has anything happened?
I hesitate to tell you, sire. I fear you're
Fear not and speak. Has she met with some misfortune?
Well, my lord, it seems a Templar, an infidel, has escaped from Tyre.
What has the Templar who's escaped to do with Sita?
I'm coming to that. He found his way into the city and was given aid by certain unknown sources.
Have them made known and come now to the point. Where does Sita figure in this?
She is hiding him.
Sita hiding a Templar? I can't believe it.
Oh, she is, sire. There's proof.
Why? What reason? Why would she hide a Templar? Why would she hide a loathsome creature detested by all mankind? Speak.
I think she loves him.
Wow.
There could be other reasons, but I know them not. They, have been seen together in the palace gardens, and the episode is common gossip among the people.
Sita? My sister, Sita, a traitor.
Please, Saladin, please listen to reason. I shall tell you all you wish to know.
I've heard enough.
I've done nothing, believe me, nothing except to spare a life.
Nothing except betray our God.
Whom does God belong to? What kind of God is this who belongs to one man who needs to be fought for by his worshippers?
Where is this Templar, this infidel?
I will tell you, Saladin, but promise me.
I promise nothing.
But you must. You must believe me, my brother. I only want to set him free.
You love him. Do you deny that, Sita?
No. That I do not deny. For that very reason, I want to help him get away. Please, Saladin. I realize too well that he and I can never... I have no other plan.
And I have. The man shall be beheaded at dawn tomorrow.
Oh, no, Saladin, no. What harm has he done to you? Is he not a human being like yourself entitled to his fate?
Your mind has already been poisoned by this Templar's beliefs. You speak not like my sister, but like an infidel. If for no other reason than that, the man must die. I give you 1 hour to bring him forth.
Hafi, I ask you as a friend and as a man in Saladin's confidence. Help me. Speak to my brother. Plead with him to revoke
Oh, that's easier said than done. Speaking to Saladin about this matter takes more than being in his confidence. I'm only the royal treasurer, not a magician, Sita.
But they have apprehended the Templar. He will be executed tomorrow morning.
I know.
Hafi, you have been my friend for many years. My friend, my brother, my father. Talk to the Sultan. Convince him that he is wrong. You, Huffy, can change his mind. You can make
Yes, Sita, I've never been able to change the Sultan's mind, even in matters of finance, saying nothing of sparing a criminal's life.
The Templar is guilty of no crime. You know you've told me many times that piety towards God cannot depend on our beliefs and fancies about God.
True, but in Saladin's eyes, being an infidel is crime enough.
But not in your eyes, Huffy.
My eyes are weak and do not matter greatly in this case.
You have told me many times that...
I have. I do not find much comfort in bloodshed. I'm glad the war is over, the killing stopped.
No, it hasn't.
Just one more man. Another head will roll and...
And then his blood will be on your head.
I did not judge the man or seal his fate. You know full well I'd gladly speak to Saladin if speaking were all that's wanted in this case, but
Who else but you?
There is a man. A Jew.
Which Jew?
So wise and close to God himself, he might convince the Sultan of his unjust decision.
Who is this man? Where does he live?
They call him Nathan the Wise, a man to whom his God has given the greatest of all the earthly gifts. He's famous throughout the city for his practice of giving alms to the poor.
What makes you think this man could talk to Saladin?
If any man could plead your Templar's case, that would be Nathan. And if any man might want to plead your Templar's case, that would be Nathan also.
Then go find him, Huffy. Find him and ask his help. We have no time to lose.
And thus it was that Huffy went to Nathan to ask his help, and the day being the Shabbos, found him in the synagogue immersed in prayer.
Thou sustainest the living with loving kindness, quickenest the dead with great mercy, supportest the falling, healest the sick, loosest the bound, and keepest thy faith to them that sleep in the dust. Who is like unto thee, Lord of mighty acts? And who resembleth thee, O King, who killest and quickenest, and causest salvation to spring forth?
Huffy waited until the services were over before approaching Nathan. He waited respectfully until the reader spoke the last of the benedictions and the worshippers closed their prayer books and removed their prayer shawls. Then he came to Nathan and greeted him as he emerged from the temple.
I listened to your prayer, Nathan, the benedictions to your God. They are in many ways the same as ours.
Does that surprise you, Huffy? The history of faith is common. Have we not one Father? Has not one God created us?
True. That brings me to the very subject I want to speak to you about. I come at the request of Sita. She wants your help.
Help? How can I help Sita?
You heard about the Templar she's been hiding. It was decided between us that only you can plead the Templar's case before the Sultan.
I?
Only you, Nathan, can make him change his mind and set the Templar free. The Sultan will listen to you.
Why better to me than to you?
Because he knows me for his treasure and nothing else. And because he knows you to be wise, unprejudiced, and close to God. Because you are a Jew and he a Muslim, and still you both respect each other's beliefs. You've learned to know and understand one another.
But the third man comes from a faith he does not understand. Engaged in open warfare with Saladin. Despised.
Yes, despised and condemned without a hearing. Do you not see the injustice of it? Remember once you told me, Nathan, despise my people if you will. Nor I nor you have chosen our people. The man's an infidel, but who's to say he's worse for it or that we are better? Do you agree?
I do agree, but obviously the Sultan doesn't.
That's why I've come to you on Sita's behalf, that you go before the Sultan and
But, Huffy, I have no spatial assets, no mystic hold upon the Sultan, no supernatural power, no magic tongue.
It's the will that makes the givers, Nathan, not the gift. You have the will, an asset which makes you wise.
Which all men think they are.
Still, man's truest interests, which lie concealed from vulgar souls, are not concealed from you, Nathan. This alone proves you are wise. And being wise, you are the better man to plead the case.
I can see, Hoppy, that you are determined to bury me in flattery.
I'm determined to make you come, Nathan.
I cannot go today. Today's the Shabbos. Can you wait until tomorrow?
Bless you, Nathan. Yes, come tomorrow. Tomorrow morning. Saladin, I've brought a friend. His name is Nathan.
Greetings, sire.
Greetings, Nathan. I've heard about you. Do you not call yourself wise?
No.
Well, if you do not, the people do.
He has an important message to deliver to you, Saladin.
Draw nearer and speak. I will always listen to any and all complaints, no matter at whom directed. Prove your point, and justice shall be done.
Sire, I do not wish to play with words or lead you on. I am here on Sita's behalf to plead for justice for the Templar.
Hoppy, is this your doing?
Milord,
I do not wish to meddle, sire, only to make a statement, to state a viewpoint.
I want to hear no more about that case. The decision has been made and stands.
What can you lose by listening, Saladin? Surely you do not fear my words?
Fear? You? I fear no man.
Then let me speak. And if I do not prove my case, if you see no logic in it, behead the Templar and behead me also.
You are confident, Jew.
I only believe in the wisdom of God. My people believe and practice it.
What else believe your people? Give me your teaching, Nathan.
Sire, I am a Jew.
And I a Mussulman. And among us here there is an infidel to boot. Of these three faiths, only one can be true. Well then, tell me your views and let me hear your grounds. Which is the true faith?
I fear this is a trap. Careful, Nathan. Be very careful.
I was about to propose the identical question to you. Can you, sire, prove that one is truer, better than the other?
I can prove that mine is best because it is mine.
And I? If I prove the same thing on the same grounds, where does that leave you? And if the Templar proves his case, where does that leave us?
You are making a point, Nathan, but I fail to see it.
Certain. Let me relate to you a little tale.
Tale. Why not? Always had a love for tales when well narrated.
The time is getting short, Nathan. The hour is running out. Make it brief.
Tell on.
Well, then, many years ago there lived a man in eastern lands who had received from his monarch a ring of priceless worth. It bore an opal stone which had a mystic power to render dear, alike to God and man, whoever wore the ring with perfect faith. Because of this, the Eastern man resolved that the ring should remain forever with his people. Upon his death, he left it to his dearest son, adding the stringent clause that he, in turn, should leave it to the son he loved the most, and that in every age, the dearest son, without respect to seniority, by virtue of the ring alone, should be the lord of all the people. And thus the ring came down from sire to son, until it reached the father of 3 sons, each equally dear to him. And by a kindly weakness, he promised the ring in turn to each of them. Thus matters stood, until the time when the father had to think of death, and then his heart was troubled. He did not want to break faith with 2 of his sons to whom he'd pledged his word, and he had but 1 ring for all 3. What was to be done? He sends in secret for a skilled craftsman.
You are the only one who can help me. You must. You see this ring? I want you to make 2 other rings precisely like this one, at any cost. But they must be the same, absolutely alike, so that no one will be able to know the difference.
I understand. I think it can be done.
Go now and come back as quickly as you can, because my end is near.
When at last the craftsman brings all 3 rings, even the father can't say which is which. And with joyful heart he summons his 3 sons, but singly and apart.
For you, my son, Take this ring, and may God bless you. Take this ring, my son, and may God bless you. I give you this ring with my blessings, my son.
And then the old man died. You hear me, Sultan?
Yes, I hear you.
Scarcely was a father dead when each son comes forth with his ring and claims to be the lord and master of his people. They investigate, recriminate, and wrangle, all in vain. Which was the true, original, genuine ring could not be proven. Just as it cannot be proven by us which is the one true faith.
Nathan, is this to pass for an answer to my question?
No, Sultan. It is only meant to serve as my excuse for a better answer. How could I presume to pronounce a distinction between the rings that the Father purposely designed to be quite undistinguishable?
Well, go on, Nathan. Go on and prove your theory.
I will, Sultan. Let us now return to the rings once more.
Quickly, Nathan, quickly. The hour is almost up.
As I have said, the three sons brought suit against each other, and each swore to the judge he was the rightful owner of the genuine ring.
You must believe me, Judge. My father promised to bequeath the ring to me alone.
That was the truth.
He lies. My father was never false to me. He promised the ring to me alone.
And this was true also.
This is a trick, Judge. A trick by both of them to swindle me. I demand justice. Yes.
I've heard enough. I'm not here to solve riddles. Unless you bring your sire and place him before the judgment seat, I must dismiss your suit. But first, let me give you some advice. Accept the case precisely as it stands. If each of you truly received his ring straight from his father's hand, let each believe his own to be the true and genuine ring. Perhaps your father wished to terminate the tyranny of that especial ring after his death. One more thing. Of this you may be sure. He loved you all and loved you all alike. Well, let each of you now match his unbiased love, so free from every prejudice. Go forth into the world and practice what he taught you, to love all mankind with mild humility, hearty forbearance, true benevolence, and resignation to the will of God.
So ends the story, Sultan.
Nathan, I promise you the thousand years of the great judge are not yet up. Albie, call the guards.
You summoned me, Saladin?
Yes, Sita?
Where's Nathan?
He's gone.
Gone? Then nothing's changed.
In some ways, no. In other ways, yes.
It's over. There's no more hope. Oh, Saladin.
Yes, hope there is from this day forward. For you and me, dear Sita, for all our people, an era has begun.
Please tell Saladin if the Templar's dead, then nothing matters.
Your Templar is free.
Free?
He returns now to his native land.
Oh, thank you, my brother.
Oh, no. It was Nathan's doing.
Dear Nathan. He is indeed a wise and kindly man. It is a pity the world has not more like him.
It has. He has opened my eyes to that. We have but to look for them, Sita, to find them everywhere. We have but to look for wisdom in the Word of God.
It has been written, where there is wisdom, there is fear of God. Where there is no wisdom, there is no fear of God. Where there is knowledge, there is understanding. Where there is no knowledge, there is no understanding.
The script you've just heard was
was based on Gotthold Lessing's dramatic poem, Nathan the Wise. And now we present a talk by Rabbi Max Gelb of Temple Israel of White Plains, New York. Rabbi Gelb.
Last Wednesday, we observed the first anniversary of victory. The end of the war, however, has brought no abiding peace. Millions of people in all parts of the world still live in fear and want and are denied the elementary rights to life and liberty. The drama Nathan the Wise reveals the old, deep-seated causes behind our present difficulties. It portrays the evil consequences of intolerance, the folly of the claim to exclusive possession of the truth, and the tragedy of racial prejudice and religious antagonism. In the parable of the three rings, which we have just heard, Muslim, Christian, and Jew are represented as brothers, the children of one Father, all equally loved by Him. The rabbis of the Talmud expressed a similar idea when they said that God, in creating Adam, the father of the human race, took the dust from the four corners of the earth so that no people may ever claim superiority over any other. The sense of human brotherhood is at the root of true religion. To deny the rights and dignity of man is to take the name of God in vain. This fundamental lesson needs to be applied in all our relationships today between Muslim, Christian, and Jew, between the white and the colored races. The call of our times is for that spirit of mutual understanding and respect among all creeds, which will foster reverence for one's own faith without resorting to any disparagement of another. Our religious convictions must become a source of harmony and cooperation, not of bigotry and friction. Our common obligation, therefore, is to mobilize our spiritual resources and help uproot the poisonous weeds of intolerance from our hearts, our homes, and our communities. With one accord, we must proclaim the truth, that whoever kindles the flames of hatred under any home will finally see his own house in ashes. Victory on the battlefield has not given mankind the answer to the evils which came so close to destroying all religion and civilization. It has merely cleared the way for an answer. And in the last analysis, it can be found only in the hearts of men and women everywhere who believe in the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. The supreme task and opportunity of our generation is to translate this conviction into life.
Thank you, Rabbi Gelb. Today's Eternal Light program was written by Ben Kagan. The music was composed by Morris Mimorsky and conducted by Milton Catums. Cantor Robert H. Siegel sang the liturgical music. Raymond Edward Johnson played the Sultan, and Will Gear appeared as Nathan. The entire production was under the direction of Ed King. This program came to you as a public service of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations in cooperation with the Jewish Theological Seminary of America.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
The Eternal Light. The The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations presents The Eternal Light. This program is brought to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our play today by Norman Rustin is based upon a story entitled I Believe, as told by Yassel Ostrovitzer to Dr. Fischel Snersen. Featured in the cast are Alexander Scourby as the narrator and Roger de Koven as the Rebbe.
Doth the city sit solitary that was full of people? How is she become as a widow? She that was great among the nations and princess among the provinces, how is she become tributary? She weepeth sore in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. She hath none to comfort her among all her lovers. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They are become her enemies. Judah is gone into exile because of affliction, and because of great servitude. She dwelleth among the nations. She findeth no rest. All her pursuers overtook her within the straits. Jerusalem remembereth in the days of her affliction and of her anguish all her treasures that she had from the days of old. So it is written in the Lamentations of a city that was once great.
My name does not matter. I'm one who escaped from another city. Out of the valley of anguish and ashes, these feet have walked as over broken glass and nails to come at last to Zion's gate, Palestine. I know not how, but some strange singing of the Spirit that gave me strength. The song. Yes, those words. I believe. With perfect faith, I believe. It was the song born in the year of slaughter, and I have lived through it to tell you. I have walked over half of Europe with the words in my ears as God's grace. I believe. The melody was born in the ghetto. No one knows when and how. It appeared on our lips suddenly, as a flower one day springs from the hidden seed and is seen whole and wondrous in the living air. And so it was with this song that lifted our life at the edge of the pit and brought my faltering feet home.
Lord, thou hast been our dwelling place in all generations, before the mountains were brought forth, or ever thou hadst formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, thou art God. Thou turnest man to contrition.
It is the time of burial in that city, city within a city, the groaning ghetto, bounded by grief and the guns of a modern Pharaoh. Truly her pursuers overtook her within the straits, and all her gates are desolate. She is Warsaw before the massacre, while there was still time for ritual.
For all our days are passed away in thy wrath. We bring our years to an end as a tale that is told. The days of our years are 80 years and 10.
Into the earth.
It is their pride.
And it seemed the dead did far outnumber the living. and some did say the earth groaned at night with the lamentations. There follows the Kriya, the tearing of the garment in bereavement, as once David for the death of Saul and Jonathan, as related in the book of Samuel.
Blessed art thou, O Lord, our God, King of the universe, the true judge.
Truly, all the treasures that she had from the days of old, Jerusalem remembereth. And there follows the week of mourning called Shiva, 7 for the 7 days. And a lamp burns in the house of the deceased. For it is said in the Proverbs, the spirit of man is the lamp of God, searching all the inward parts. And at a year, a marking is set upon the grave called Matsevo, and the observance of the Yahrzeit, the year, in the prayer of the Kaddish spoken by the sun.
Ose shalom bimromov, uyase shalom, olenu v'al Yisrael.
What is the light for, Rebbe?
It is the light for the dead.
How many candles are there burning for us?
Millions. For the Jews, not enough tallow to make the candles.
And God sees the candles?
Yes, he sees. Each light he sees. Everywhere he sees our little candle, which tells of our faith.
To pass that even the faith dimmed as a star before the overwhelming day, their oppression 1,000 times greater than the 10 tests of Abraham endured before God. The year of the great slaughter was at hand, and over the ghetto hung the foreboding air.
Not here yet. Why isn't he here? Oh, where is he? Where is my son?
Be not frightened, dear wife. He will be home soon.
Oh, he was going outside. He said outside. Why did he go?
Why? He knows.
Oh.
He is old enough to know of sorrow.
Listen. It is the curfew. If he is down the street after curfew, you know what happens to those who are caught.
Come away from the window.
Wait, I see him now, coming down the street, running. Hurry, open the door for him. Open the door.
Yes.
Open the door! Mama. I brought it, Mama.
In his hand, bread. Half a loaf of bread.
And once again, the Kriya and the Shiva. Yea, all the treasures that she had from the days of old, Jerusalem remembereth. And had I 7 tongues, I could not tell you the whole story of the afflictions. Had I 7 millennia of peace, I could not rest with the weight of those calamities upon my soul. And through it all we lived, or seemed to. Inside those walls our spirit rose and fell, and the days of waiting were as teeth that tore at our flesh.
Friends, we meet again in this little room to discuss steps to be taken.
Again? Again to discuss? I ask you, Rebbe, will we go to our graves discussing? We die as locusts in this accursed place, and you ask us to discuss.
We are prisoners, remember. We cannot do as we please.
But, Rebbe, what does he propose? Let him tell us. Speak.
We are prisoners, it has been said. And truly we are. But prisoners have been known to break out of prisoners.
And how, if we may discuss, do you propose to do this? With what?
With our hands, with stones.
Against the Nazi guns? You've seen them waiting high on the wall?
Yes, and I still say
and you ask us to die?
Do we not die now? Each day we grow weaker. Each day the strong ones lose strength. How long shall we have our faith?
What does it mean, such talk? You doubt your God?
Honored Rebbe, I say only that we are men. And a man is flesh and blood as well as a soul. And he dies simply by waiting. I speak the truth. Who in this room has not lost a dear one?
Alas.
Whose eyes have not the look of hunger? Only our prayers keep us alive, and for what?
I know. We know well their slaughter. They're coming with their carts to carry away the dead. They're coming with the wagons to take our dear ones away, God knows where, to exile, to labor. I say the time is not yet here to rise up against them.
I will not be patient any longer.
Then, if you please, you can discuss it yourself with the jailers, yes? I am not a coward. When the hour comes to fight, even with our hands, these hands will fight. Now I ask to be alone with my prayers.
Good night, Trevor.
Good night.
We will meet again.
You do not go? No more crying. No more.
I want to ask you alone, Rib.
Yes, you may ask.
I'm frightened. In my heart, I do not understand. I cannot go on day after day. My baby is dying. I want to die.
No, that you must not say.
I've lost everything. In my heart, I cannot believe any longer. I don't know.
You should know, all of us, that the meaning of the commandment to relate the story of the Exodus from Egypt is to extol the wonders of redemption, not to tell us of the suffering and oppression which preceded liberation. During Passover, we recite the great Hallel which our forefathers said in the days of redemption. But we do not repeat the weeping of our forefathers in the days of darkness which came before.
Yes, it is true. Yes.
And this is the meaning of Izdabha Rucha Barucha. The human heart does as the mind wills. Thoughts and words of suffering and persecution are more harmful than the suffering itself.
I see.
That is why we find in the Master of Redemption, whom we praise, the miracle that keeps us from madness, the faith which seems lost but will be found again in some simple thing. Without it, the pulse of the soul fails. Without faith, it is impossible to die honorably. And that we must do. That above all.
And many thought, where was God? Was this the will of God? To visit upon us the same curse that felled the cruel Egyptian with locusts and the death of the firstborn? Was this his test to prepare us for his coming as told in our tradition? Yet how to believe? For the mouth that prays also needs water. The soul is tied to the navel of flesh. For I have lived through those times, and were each man as Job calling for justice, they would have reason before his eyes. And one would think, sitting upon this pestilence, this dunghill of the world, that they would shriek out. And often it would seem they spoke to him, though their eyes were lowered.
If my blood were milk, you would have my blood. Why were you born? Why did you come? From darkness unto darkness is your life. There's nothing but a little song I sing in my heart all day for your father.
Shiva and the burning candle. And we said, he will see, he will know. His light, though it flickers in the wind's grief, still burns. The song,
The song, listen. I hear it always in the air now that I'm safe. I believe with perfect faith. But still it was not sung. Still this melody waited to be born from the wisdom of Maimonides, waited to be born from the bottomless trial. And it was soon to come. They needed new murder, these people who lived on murder, these eaters of our flesh who will be damned unto the farthest generations. The need to kill consumed them. Their evil howled at their heels like voices driving them on. And we were the easiest to kill. Then they came.
Up! Get up! Open the door! Get Papo! How many in the family?
3 of us.
You will be ready in an hour. How many under 40 years?
2. Myself and my son.
Be ready to leave in 1 hour. Get Papo. There are 4 children listed in this house.
Where do you take them?
For a ride, Jew. In the wagon. You know the wagon, eh?
Mama, it's dark. Mama, why are we getting dressed?
Hush, my child. Quiet.
Why are you putting on my new dress, Mama?
We're going away.
Where?
To Grandmother.
Grandmother?
Sit still, child. Let me comb your hair. Sit still.
You're crying. I can see, Mama.
Yep.
I know why you're crying. You're afraid to tell me we're going to die.
And some said, I believe the world will be redeemed with justice and mercy. But see, master of the world, these are little children. See, our body is broken on the rack endlessly. See, our candles now become as many as stars. How long? How long? We are cut down as grass, and the side of ours will not rest. Not rest. Then it was that the word came.
Rebbe, I have news. I see evil tidings upon your face. Evil, yes. Evil beyond all evils. As if it were not enough this past month, now they come to take another 1,000.
Who?
Men, only men. For the camps. And we know what the camps mean.
And it is time.
Rebbe, how does a man die best?
With knowledge in the right, with belief in God.
How does this belief show itself then?
In some small miracle. You will see. God will show himself.
When shall it be?
At dawn tomorrow.
How many guns?
20 guns. Also many sticks and knives which will be assembled at the walls.
And the stones?
Stones, yes. We have stones.
The German trucks will come in through the east gate. We will spread our forces in the rear area, according to this map. Ready?
Cannot be too soon. What is the time?
Almost dawn. Our last dawn.
There are lights coming. The trucks. Listen.
Last dawn. I wish there was something, not to pray because that is a thing for each man alone, but something to bind us all at this last hour, for we will all die.
Did you hear?
The song. Listen. You remember hearing it before?
No. The words are familiar. Listen. From Maimonides, his 13 Principles of Faith. I believe. With perfect faith, I believe.
The melody. Where did it come from? It seems as if the air is singing.
And although he may be delayed in coming, despite all that, I believe.
A new hymn to the martyrs. A hymn to life, though we die. Listen. The whole ghetto sings. All of us, brothers. Our God has given us this song.
Here they come now.
Fire!
That is the song. The same song that once burned upon my own lips, the miracle, and now is spread among my people and the living. The city where it came is no more. All is leveled. All that once stood, houses, trees, and men. But this I know. When the path seemed endless and as flaming fire beneath my feet, and I fell, I would hear that song. My own lips were singing it, my own lips, the song of the ghetto. Ani ma'amin. And my heart took strength, and I rose again. And I knew I must live to reach my brother's land, so I might relate this tale and its wonder.
And now we present a talk by Rabbi Leon S. Lang of the Beth El Congregation. From Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Rabbi Lang.
There are few men and women who walk this earth for whom some fervent hope has not withered before the tyranny of circumstance. For millions, an inner voice of the soul called out, I believe, I believe. That voice of faith transformed the tragic failure into a glorious triumph of the Spirit. These faithful have ever declared, the breath of the Almighty giveth me life. Human progress without such faith would have been inconceivable. Reaching out for the infinite, man, in his mortal frailty and limitation at his very best, attains only the barest fragment of his objective. Faith and faith alone dispel the blinding fog of confusion and the hysteria of despair with which human frustration so often afflicts us. During the war, we have witnessed the martyr and the hero vanquish pain, torture, and death itself through this invulnerable faith. Without such redeeming faith, Israel should have perished long ago. This fate was implied in the stern logic of historic events, and yet, from Moses the Liberator to the fearless rabbi in the flaming cauldron of Warsaw, a force far more potent than logic enabled the Jew to survive humiliation, hate, and annihilation. Before the ineradicable conviction, the righteous liveth by his faith, every ruthless device of the destroyer was rendered powerless and defeated. Reading today of the wrangling arguments of world statesmen at Paris, we are deeply alarmed. Shall we find greater security in the defeatism of the cynic, the betrayal of the last hope of desperate, misery-laden, homeless Jews at the gates of Palestine, and deplorable violence in the Holy Land are a severe test of our faith? Shall we afford them more speedy relief through the panic of the coward and the doubts of the skeptic? No, indeed. Justice and freedom and enduring peace can be achieved only by stout hearts and resolute spirits. I believe is no death wail in the night. It is a brave and bold challenge to a new and better life. No path is closed, no hurdle too high, no foe too strong before such invincible faith in the ultimate realization of man's noblest ideals. Trust ye in the Lord, trust ye in his prophets, and ye shall prosper.
Thank you, Rabbi Lang. Today's radio play, written by Norman Rustin, was based on the story I Believe by Yossel Ostrovitzer. It was translated for the May 1946 issue of Land and Life magazine by William Z. Spiegelman. The music was composed by Morris Mamorsky and conducted by Milton Cadens. Cantor Robert H. Siegel sang the liturgical music. The role of the Rebbe was played by Roger de Koven, and the narrator was Alexander Scorby. The entire production was under the direction of Ed King. This program is a weekly presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations, and comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations presents The Eternal Light. This program is brought to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Today's broadcast is the first in a special series of 4 programs presenting the most popular Eternal Light scripts written by Morton Wishengrad. Today, you will hear a repeat performance of Braneis. Featured in the cast are Roger de Koven as Justice Braneis and Barry Kroger as the narrator.
I have a story to tell you. But you cannot understand my story unless you understand this fact. And the fact is this. Every step you take toward the future leaves behind a footprint of the past. And there is no escape from the past. Nor should there be. For a man cannot escape his heritage. If it is good, he may redeem it, but no more. I know this. You must know it. In the year 1910, in the 54th year of his life, Louis Dembitz Brandeis knew it also.
What are the things a man may not forget? I say to you that I may not forget that I am pursued by the Middle Ages like a neurotic haunted by a phantom dream. My days are warm with the memory of 3,000 years of civilization. But my sleep is fitful with the cry of 2,000 years of persecution. And both by day and by night, I am a Jew. And this is a fact sealed in my flesh like the covenant of Abraham. Now I shall tell you the story. On a day more than 35 years ago in the city of Boston, I sat in the offices of the firm of Braneis, Dunbar, and Nutter and listened to a man with blue eyes talk to two visitors.
Mr. Kelly, what is your grievance? Why do the shoe workers threaten this strike against my client, Mr. Williams?
It's pretty simple, Mr. Brandeis. The men can't live on what they get.
Williams, is this true?
You're my lawyer, Brandeis. You know I pay my men $18 a week. For these times, it's not a bad wage.
We aren't denying that, Mr. Williams. It isn't a bad wage.
Oh, you do admit that, don't you?
We admit it, sure.
Then why do you want to strike?
We need more money, that's why.
Brandeis, I told you there was no point in asking him here. The workers are unreasonable, absolutely unreasonable.
Mr. Kelly, let's be clear about this. You admit that Mr. Williams pays a decent wage.
Highest in the business, sure.
Yet you want more. Aren't you being a little unfair?
No, sir. Ask him about the 2 long slack seasons when the men are laid off.
Are there slack seasons, Mr. Williams?
Why, naturally. It's a seasonal industry.
But we don't live seasonal. We live 52 weeks out of the year just the same as you. Average our fancy pay over the year, and what do we get?
Mr. Williams, I'd like your figures on seasonal layoff.
Look here, Brandeis. I'm a manufacturer, not a settlement house worker.
Well, don't you think Mr. Kelly has a point to what he's saying?
Then you tell him my point. You're my lawyer. I pay you, not him. Don't forget that little thing.
I haven't forgotten it, sir. But wouldn't it be a rather unfortunate thing for a lawyer to advocate something which he can't approve as a citizen?
Listen, I hired a lawyer, not a citizen.
Well, perhaps, Mr. Williams, when you hired me, you hired both.
Did I, though?
Mr. Williams, I think perhaps you did.
All right, Mr. Citizen. You just go right ahead and sit behind this desk. Me? I'm going out to get me a lawyer.
Well, Mr. Brandeis, you talk mighty funny for a conservative.
Funny? I don't think so. There was a time when the working relationship was between a master and servant. Today, it's between employer and employee. All I want is to make both employer and employee partners. Partners to a contract.
That's still pretty radical for Mr. Williams.
So are Isaiah and Amos, Mr. Kelly. That gives me an idea. Excuse me, Mr. Kelly.
Go right ahead.
Yes, Mr. Brandeis.
Have you finished my holiday list?
Oh, yes, I have, sir.
Please add another item, will you? A book.
Of course, sir. For the children?
No, for Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir.
Inscribe my compliments, and please send him a copy of the Bible.
Mr. Brandeis, we'll come right to the point. Whitman, suppose you do the talking.
All right, Abbott. Mr. Brandeis, a number of Boston businessmen have organized a committee. A committee that needs legal advice in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
I believe your firm represents the Great American Assurance Society?
Yes, we handle their local matters.
Do you know much about them, Mr. Brandeis?
A good deal.
Why? Abbott and I are policyholders. Pretty big policyholders. Abbott, tell Mr. Brandeis what you found.
Something pretty dirty. A few of the vice presidents have formed a syndicate. They're buying securities with Treasury funds.
Well, if the securities are sound, I don't see what's wrong.
Oh, the securities are sound enough. What's wrong, though, is that they're buying the securities for themselves.
Can you prove that?
Look at this. Sworn affidavits.
They're using other people's money, aren't they?
Brandeis, we know you represent the company. We're asking now if you want to represent us against the company.
Mr. Brandeis, if this embarrasses you as a lawyer, why, tell us.
It's embarrassing, all right. I'm embarrassed to be the company's lawyer.
Then you'll take this case?
I'll be glad to, Mr. Whitman.
Fine. We're prepared to give you a retainer of $10,000.
No, Mr. Whitman.
Well, they told us you were a good businessman. We'll make it $15,000.
You don't understand. I'll take the case, but without fee. This isn't a private matter, and I don't think I have a right to charge the public for my services.
We can afford to pay, Mr. Brandeis.
All right, Whitman, I'll take half of what you're getting from this.
Why, I'm getting nothing.
Good, I'll take half of that.
Mr. Brandeis, I think I know now why your friends call you a liberal.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Abbott, what do my enemies call me?
Why, what do you suppose, Mr. Brandeis?
You tell me.
Mr. Brandeis, they call you a Jew.
Louis Dembit Brandeis smiled. To be called a Jew, it was amusing. Had not Uncle Louis Dembit been one of the 3 men in 1860 to nominate Abraham Lincoln for president, had not he himself as a young man sat at the feet of Emerson and Lowell? He was the man consulted by presidents, the friend of Oliver Wendell Holmes and William Allen White, and a college president called Woodrow Wilson. Yes, it was amusing to call this tall, slender, blue-eyed man a Jew. His synagogue was the court of law. His scriptures were legal precedents. His altar was social justice. Louis Brandeis smiled a puzzled smile and then dismissed the incident. But it kept recurring.
Congratulations, Mr. Brandeis. You certainly made them crawl back into the woodwork.
I believe I did, Mr. Whitman. There's a good deal of fun in being a public servant, isn't there?
Maybe. Well, anyhow, you got yourself some free publicity in the Tribune. Listen to this. Brandeis possesses the rare knowledge of knowing when to stop. When he has exasperated his opponents to the limit of their endurance, he grows gentler than a suckling dove. I'm sorry, Mr. Brandeis.
Quite all right, Mr. Whitman. Read on.
No, let's forget it.
Please, read the rest of it.
All right. Gentler than a suckling dove and more persuasive than a second-hand clothes dealer trying to sacrifice himself to give you a bargain. That's pretty low, Mr. Brandeis.
My friends call me a liberal, and apparently those who aren't my friends call me a Jew. If you'll excuse me, Mr. Whitman, I think I'll have to talk to my friend Filene about this. Filene, have you got a ready definition of a Jew?
What?
Yes, I seem to be in need of a definition.
Well, I don't know who the philosopher was, but someone has alleged to have said that a Jew is like everybody else, only more so.
Filene, I think I ought to meet some Jews.
Why, that's a real coincidence, Brandeis. How would you like to go to New York and arbitrate a garment workers' dispute?
I wouldn't. I've got my hands full fighting the railroad trust. What's the coincidence about the New York thing?
You've heard of the ILGWU. That's quite a mouthful. It stands for the International Ladies Garment Workers Union.
Well, what about them?
The New York cloak makers are on strike. It happens that many of the workers and employers are Jewish.
Well,
that's your chance to find out something about the Jews. The situation shrieks for an arbitrator.
Might be interesting at that.
You called, Miss Brandeis?
Yes, please ask Mr. Dunbar if he wouldn't mind taking my notes and dictating the rest of my Ballinger Glavis brief. I'm going to New York.
What are you talking about? You see, Mr. Brandeis, in the Union, it's a real democracy. Everybody wants to talk. Nobody wants to listen.
Mr. Dice, if you have no objection, I'd like one of the shop chairmen to present the case.
Moskowitz, tell Mr. Brandeis.
It's very simple, Mr. Brandeis. All we want is a contract and union recognition.
I thought you were striking for higher wages and the elimination of sweatshop conditions.
Naturally. But the union comes first.
But suppose I were able to get an increase for you. Would you turn that down?
Look, Mr. Brandeis, my own boss, he isn't a bad fellow. He came to America on the same boat with me. But that doesn't make him Santa Claus. Today he feels generous, so he gives us a raise. Tomorrow his wife burns the coffee and he gives us a cut. Excuse me, Mr. Brandeis. We don't want favors. We want a union.
That's right. That's the consensus, Mr. Brandeis.
You can tell that to the employers.
Mr. Brandeis, what the workers want is absolutely out of the question.
Then you refuse to sign a contract?
We refuse to recognize the union, period.
That's too bad. I'm afraid the strike will continue.
Between me and you, Mr. Brandeis, I don't want the others to hear this. Maybe if I were a worker, I'd continue the strike.
You?
Don't you think I was once a worker? Why do you think I became an employer? Conditions in this industry are terrible.
I'm really amazed. I thought I'd heard all the answers, but this one is absolutely new.
The trouble with you, Mr. Brandeis, is that you were born in Kentucky. I'll go back and tell those idiots they can strike until they're blue in the face. In Yiddish, there's another way to say it, but you tell it to them in English.
No, we'll stay out, Mr. Brandeis.
Look here, you can't. Some of your people are literally starving.
If it was just for hours and wages, we'd go back tomorrow. But this is a principle. When I was a young fellow in Kishinev, I used to study the Talmud. When I came to America, I found the word I studied. They call it democracy.
Is that what the Talmud is about, Mr. Moskowitz?
They call it something else. But that's what it's about. You know, Mr. Brandeis, it's a shame. A smart man like you should learn a little Hebrew.
I think it is a shame. Someday, perhaps someone like you should teach me.
Free of charge. If you want a small lesson, here it is. Look, I'm writing.
Mm-hmm.
That's Hebrew.
It looks like a dentist's chart.
It spells a word. I'll say it for you. Tzedek.
Tzedek. What does it mean?
Justice and righteousness. Now, here's another word. Tzedakah.
Tzedakah.
It comes from the word for justice.
I see.
And it means charity. Now, that's a wonderful thing, Mr. Brandeis. In the Hebrew language, the word for charity comes from the word that means justice and righteousness. Now, please go back to those fine bosses of ours and tell them for us a little less tzedakah and a little more tzedek.
Mr. Brandeis, don't believe anything that Moskowitz says. At night, he's studying to be a lawyer.
What is Mr. Moskowitz during the day?
He thinks he's an operator. Between you and me, he's a butcher. It'll be a fine day for my business when he gets his diploma.
What I can't understand is why your association refuses to negotiate. There's such an extraordinary amount of hostility on both sides, and yet there seems to be much kinship and understanding.
If only those idiots would be sensible.
That's what they want you employers to be, just sensible.
Now, that's the trouble. You know something, Mr. Brandeis? When two people are enemies, it's not such a terrible tragedy. But when they're enemies because they both want the same thing, then it is a tragedy. Please, go back and see if you can talk some sense into those crazy lunatics.
Mr. Moskowitz, a wise man knows when to yield.
With the greatest satisfaction, Mr. Brandeis. Tell him Moskowitz says he can be a wise man. I give him the honor. Let him yield.
This is the most extraordinary strike I've ever known. It's like a passage from the Talmud with both sides trying to write a commentary.
Yes, Mr. Brandeis. You know, I have a little boy. Papa, he says, what's democracy? Sonny, I tell him democracy is in the classroom, in the store where Mama buys tomatoes, in the Board of Aldermen, in the polling places. But for 10 hours a day, it's not in the shop. The boss doesn't have time for it. Please, Mr. Brandeis, tell the boss the shop is on East Broadway, East Broadway is in New York, and New York is still in America.
And so you see, I'm a little tired of being an intermediary. I've brought you both together.
Like old times, eh, Moskowitz?
The association has approved an increase. Hours will be cut. Shop sanitation will be improved. Mr. Moskowitz, I think these are generous concessions.
They are, Moskowitz. We're willing to do whatever we can.
What's the catch?
See? 1 year in law school, and he wants to know what's the catch. That's what they teach in law school.
Mister, I know you from the old country. What's the catch?
The association will yield on all demands except union recognition.
Well, of course. They want to build us a fine house. The only thing they don't want is that the house should have a foundation.
Moskowitz, don't be a stubborn mule.
Mr. Brandeis, he goes to the synagogue. Let him tell me if the words are only for Saturday or if he's supposed to practice them every day.
But he does see these things. I think he's making substantial concessions.
Of course.
It's a regular merry-go-round. We want a union. We want a contract. That comes first.
Mr. Moskowitz, I think you're right about this. I recognize it as a lawyer and as an American.
You can say also as a Jew.
On whose side are you arguing?
Since it's going to cost me money, I'll argue on both sides.
Then you're willing to come to terms?
Well, maybe. But first I'll have to talk to the other employers.
Good. It's not a pleasure to be on strike.
Listen, you Talmudist, you've said enough. Mr. Brandeis, look at him. Do you think he's the only one who can speak a little Hebrew? Maybe I can quote a little, too. Sion b'mishpot tipodeh.
Sion b'mishpot tipodeh.
Don't break your teeth, Mr. Brandeis. Sion b'mishpot tipodeh. Zion will be redeemed through righteousness.
Moskowitz, with a head like yours, couldn't you be a better operator and not such a botcher?
There it is, gentlemen. This is the first collective agreement with enforcement machinery in it.
Yeah, it's a fine day's work.
Mr. Brandeis, it'll do for a start.
Gentlemen, I've learned something from you both. I'm 54 years old. All my life, I've worked for something I call justice. Social justice. I came here with curiosity, and I found that beneath all the bickering and controversy and the passion, that there was something that preachers call brotherhood. And I found it expressed. Perhaps you may not accept this, but I found it expressed in terms of Judaism. For someone like myself who hardly considered himself a Jew, that means a good deal.
This was a beginning for Louis Dembitz Brandeis. In the 54th year of his life, an idea burgeoning in a great man's mind. A man thinking, applying the scientific method, mixing, compounding, testing the idea, formulating a concept in the crucible of his conscience. Truly, is not this the spark of divinity that makes man only slightly less than the angels? And because he was not a closet speculator, because he was a man of action, he made his decision.
Filene? Yes? I seem to have suddenly discovered a heritage.
Yes?
I want to be worthy of the Jewish name. It isn't wealth, it isn't station. No, nor honor, nor ambition, none of those things. It's like seeing a vision. Knowing that what is mean is not for us. Knowing that we must speak again for social justice and for righteousness, like Holmes. I would say that self-respect demands that we live not only honorably, but worthily.
But, Brandeis, this is what you've tried to be all your life.
Yes, as an American. All my life, I've heard people speak of Americanism and Judaism as separate from each other. I know now it's not so. Place the pattern of Americanism over Judaism. Filene, they match. Filene, a Jew is an American in the best, in the truest, in the deepest, richest sense of the word. And Filene, it makes me very proud.
What man alive has never held up a mirror to his own conscience and said to himself, "This is what I truly believe. These are the things I will not compromise. These are the banners I must carry. Without them, I have no integrity." In the summer of 1910, these ideas came to Louis Dembitz Brandeis. The ideas came. He held them in the pan of his brain. He kneaded them like dough. He placed them in the oven of his heart to bake. And when, months later, a rabbi came to him and spoke of Palestine, Brandeis answered.
I am an American, Rabbi.
So am I. We are attempting to found a refuge in Palestine for Jews who have no other land. The Jews of Middle Europe and Eastern Europe.
Oh. Can I, as an American, support such a project?
Because you are an American, Mr. Brandeis.
Rabbi, I have begun to feel that to be a better American, I must become a better Jew.
Carry it further, Mr. Brandeis. I hold that to be a good Jew, you must help to fulfill the prophetic vision for the Holy Land.
Perhaps you're right, Rabbi. I shall have to consider it carefully. If Palestine is to have any validity, it cannot be just another small state, as a small duchy of Luxembourg or another Montenegro. It must have a purpose greater than nationalism.
Yes, it can have that. With the help of men like yourself, I know it must.
In the 58th year of his life, virtually in the hour when President Woodrow Wilson summoned him to the Supreme Court of the United States to take his place alongside Oliver Wendell Holmes, Louis Dembitz Brandeis, jurist, moralist, liberal, Jew, American, accepted the cause of Zionism and became its leader in America. And he spoke with the words of Ahad Ha'am.
I live for the sake of the perpetuation and happiness of the community of which I am a member. I die to make room for new individuals who will mold the community afresh. When the individual thus values the community as he values his own life and strives after its happiness as though it were his individual well-being, he finds satisfaction and no longer feels so keenly the bitterness of his individual existence, because he sees the end for which he lives and suffers. I am an American, and I have come to Zionism through Americanism. Let it be for what the prophets spoke. Let it be only that. Sion b'mishpat tipodeh. Zion will be redeemed through righteousness.
And now we take pleasure in presenting Dr. Judah Golden, Professor of Religion at the State University of Iowa. Rabbi Golden.
To do full justice to the life of Louis Brandeis, one ought to have at least legal training, because it was through the law that this man made his principal contribution. Yet laymen may also contemplate the meaning of Brandeis's life, for the elements which he adopted in his conception of law affect the life of every citizen. It would be silly to suggest that Brandeis considered the terms of the law unimportant. Nevertheless, the fact remains that to him law was an instrument and opportunity to serve mankind. When he was once asked for his services and told that he could fix his own salary, and it would have been considerable, Brandeis accepted the assignment but added, "I must decline to accept any salary for the reason that the burden of increased rates will ultimately be borne by the consumer through the increased cost of living, mainly of those least able to bear added burdens. Any aid I can render in preventing added burdens shall be unpaid service." Brandeis is remembered in this spirit. Here in Massachusetts, Governor Tobin recently wrote to President Louis Finkelstein of the Jewish Theological Seminary, "We have a very deep appreciation of the sterling character, the extraordinary ability, and the substantial achievement of the late Justice Brandeis. It was here that he first gained recognition for his knowledge of the law. Here he first manifested his zeal for public service. Here he pioneered in the establishment of a system of savings bank life insurance that has proved a blessing to tens of thousands of men, women, and children. Through contact with Jewish working men, Brandeis rediscovered sources of Jewish tradition, the passion for justice, defiance of brutality, love of learning and hatred of cant. Inevitably for Brandeis, this rediscovery led to Zion, to his love for it, labor for it. For from Zion had come the prophets, from Zion had come sages, and into Zion his people were now prepared to pour all their strength and their dreams. No wonder that as Brandeis rose to speak for Zionism, his face shone, Mrs. Evans reports, with an inner light that transformed his whole being.
Thank you, Dr. Golden. You have just heard Brandeis, the first in a special series of 4 programs featuring the most popular Eternal Light scripts written by Morton Wishengrad. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Cadens. Cantor Robert H. Siegel was heard in the liturgical music. Barry Kroger was the narrator, and Roger De Koven appeared as Justice Brandeis. The entire production was under the direction of Ed King. This program has been a public service of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations in cooperation with the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Today's story, written by Morton Wishengrad, deals with the struggle to remove civil and political disabilities in the state of Maryland during the second decade of the last century. Horace Braham is featured in the role of Thomas Kennedy.
Blessed art thou, O Lord, who hast kept us in life and sustained us unto this day. A prayer of thanksgiving. Offer thanksgiving on this day for the uniqueness of America. Offer thanksgiving for the nameless heroes who took the words of the fine declarations and believed them and fought to make the word a deed. Offer thanksgiving to the memory of men who are not ashamed to be good, who sought no refuge in cynicism, who did not fear to stand alone. Listen, this is your story. 1818, the House of Delegates, Annapolis, Maryland. The clerk of the House.
Mr. Speaker, I have the credentials of the elected member from Washington County.
Are they in order, Mr. Clerk?
They are, Mr. Speaker.
His name, if you please.
The Honorable Thomas Kennedy.
Come forward, Mr. Kennedy, and take the oath.
Do you, Thomas Kennedy, solemnly swear or affirm that you will protect and defend the Constitution of the state of Maryland?
I do.
Upon the true faith of a Christian?
Complete the oath, Mr. Kennedy.
I should like to, Mr. Speaker, but I'm rather troubled by the form of the oath.
I was not aware if there's anything in the oath to cause difficulty. Mr. Clerk, are you troubled?
Not at all, Mr. Speaker.
Well, proceed, then. Unless Mr. Kennedy is not a Christian.
Mr. Speaker, I was born in Scotland. The sect in which I was bred is the Presbyterian Church. I have no doubt a person may get to heaven that way.
We are gratified to hear you say that, Mr. Kennedy. But let us get on with the oath, shall we?
Mr. Speaker, Article 6 of the Constitution declares, no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any public office or public trust under the United States.
You are asked to uphold the Constitution of the state of Maryland. I might inform the gentleman from Washington County that the Constitution of Maryland is older than the Constitution of the United States.
This oath of office makes it impossible for citizens who are not Christians to be seated here.
Mr. Kennedy, I was not aware that Jews and Mohammedans are numerous in your constituency.
Sir, is it the custom of this body to insult new delegates?
Not at all, Mr. Kennedy. I was merely making an observation.
There is not a single Jew resident in Washington County. In fact, I've not met a single Jew in Maryland.
Then in heaven's name, take the oath and be done.
Exactly, Mr. Kennedy. Take the oath and be done.
I cannot, Mr. Speaker.
Why not?
Because I'm an American and a Christian. Article 6, Mr. Speaker, of the United States Constitution, Chapter 25, verse 10 of the third book of the Bible. Proclaim liberty throughout all the land, and to all the inhabitants thereof.
Mr. Kennedy, I ask you again, do you swear to the oath?
You asked me to hold my hand on the Bible that declares the oath to be false and injurious.
Mr. Clerk, you will proceed with the next order of business. Mr. Kennedy does not take the oath. Mr. Kennedy is not a member of this legislature.
Incident in the House of Delegates in the town of Annapolis, Maryland, in the year 1818. But an incident that was not closed. It could not be closed, for a man called Jefferson had said, "We are not to expect to be translated from despotism to liberty in a feather bed." Jefferson said it, and Thomas Kennedy was of the party of Jefferson. The incident was not closed. Now, Thomas Kennedy received a visitor.
The name is Sullivan, Mr. Kennedy. Jeremiah T. Sullivan.
What can I do for you, sir?
Go back to the House of Delegates and take the oath.
Mr. Sullivan, I don't know why you came. I don't know who sent you, and I'll trouble you to mind your own business.
Spoken like a man. A fine temper like that, and you're not Irish. What a pity. You ask me to mind my own business.
I do, Mr. Sullivan.
This is my business. It wasn't so many years ago a Catholic couldn't sit in the House of Delegates. Did you know that now?
Yes, I do. What do you think I'm trying to do?
Kennedy, in Maryland before the Revolution, a Catholic, because he was a Catholic, paid twice the land tax. A Catholic servant from Ireland paid a tax of 20 shillings. If a Catholic man died, the law said that his children could be taken from the widow. You see, Mr. Kennedy, I'm minding my own business now.
It's not altogether clear, Mr. Sullivan.
I'm coming to the point. Why did it take so many years to change the law?
You tell me.
I'll do that. Because laws are written and changed in the legislature. You can't change a law when you don't sit in the legislature.
That's why you want me to take the oath?
That's why.
It's a good reason, Mr. Sullivan.
Think it over.
All right, Mr. Sullivan. I'll think it over.
Shake your hand now. Oh, one more thing.
Yes, Sullivan?
Kennedy. That's a fine name.
Thank you.
You sure now?
Sure? Sure of what?
Was it Scotland you really came from and not Ireland, Kennedy? Are you sure?
Proceed, Mr. Clerk.
Do you, Thomas Kennedy, solemnly swear or affirm that you'll protect and defend the Constitution of the state of Maryland?
I do.
Upon the true faith of a Christian?
Upon the true faith of a Christian.
I congratulate you, Mr. Kennedy, on your good sense.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, you have the floor.
I offer a resolution.
What is your resolution, Mr. Kennedy?
I offer a resolution calling for the appointment of a committee to consider placing all citizens on an equal footing in this state.
The gentleman from Washington County is entirely out of order.
If Mr. Kennedy is not like Maryland, let him go back to Scotland.
The question is out of order.
Mr. Speaker, I ask you to put the resolution before the House.
Mr. Speaker, I move we adjourn.
I protest, sir. There is a question before the House. The motion to adjourn is out of order.
Mr. Kennedy, you are new in this body and entitled to your ignorance. I must inform you that the motion to adjourn is never out of order.
I rise and appoint a special privilege.
What is your point, Mr. Breckenridge?
I confess to a sense of shame. Mr. Speaker, gentlemen of the House of Delegates, we may abuse Mr. Kennedy here, but we abuse ourselves more. This is the legislature of the people of Maryland. Mr. Kennedy is entitled to an honorable hearing. He is entitled to our courtesy. He is entitled to every privilege of this legislature. I appeal to your sense of decency.
Mr. Speaker, motion to adjourn.
Now, the motion is to adjourn. All those in favor will say aye.
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 Only 2 for adjournment. Apparently, there's no need to call for the negative. The House of Delegates remains in session. Mr. Clerk, a roll call on the resolution.
The resolution carried. A first small step in a Maryland incident. A committee of 3 was appointed to report. On December 9th, 1818, Thomas Kennedy rose before the House of Delegates.
Your committee introduces a bill entitled An Act to Extend to those professing the Jewish religion the same rights and privileges that are enjoyed by Christians.
Incident in the Maryland legislature. And an incident which was not closed. The bill was defeated. Yes, Jefferson was right. We are not to expect to be translated from despotism to liberty in a feather bed. During the session of the legislature in the following year, once again, the bill was introduced. And once again, it was defeated. Kennedy and Breckenridge continued the work of the committee.
Mr. Kennedy, I believe you've already met Mr. Sullivan.
He's practically married to me, Mr. Breckenridge, and he can't forgive me because I'm not somebody else's wife.
Will you be seated, sir?
Yes, I will.
Sullivan, Mr. Breckenridge tells me you're not happy over the bill that I've introduced.
You're right there. I don't like it.
Oh, you're a hard man to please, Sullivan.
Yes, the Dublin blood in me, I suppose.
I'm trying to remove the religious test, Sullivan. I thought that was what we both wanted.
Sure. But the bill does not remove the religious test.
Well, what in heaven's name does it do?
It substitutes tolerance for intolerance.
Good Lord. And is there anything wrong with that?
Sure.
How?
Tolerance is no virtue, Mr. Kennedy. A man tolerates the other fellow only when he thinks the other fellow is less than he is. I think tolerance is a rotten word.
Yeah. You have something there, Sullivan.
The Maryland legislature can't give me permission to worship God as a Catholic. That's spit clean in their eye. They can't give Breckenridge here permission to worship as an Episcopalian. And they can't give my good friend Captain Reuben Etting permission to worship as a Jew. Because when did the Maryland legislature last speak to God?
You're absolutely right, Sullivan. Now, what do you propose?
Take out the word Jew from your bill. Put the word all in its place.
Breckinridge, do you agree?
You'd better go slow, Kennedy. You'll be attacked as irreligious.
I won't let them. Religion's in my bones. It's in the Declaration of Independence. It's in the American Constitution. Breckinridge, I'm a religious man. Government without the spirit of religion is like a bird without wings. But by heaven, we're not going to allow the legislature to make a political club out of religion.
Kennedy, now don't be deceiving a believing man. Are you sure it's Scotland you came from? Now don't be deceiving a believing man. Are you sure it's Scotland you came from?
Thomas Kennedy amended his bill. For the third time, the bill came before the House of Delegates, and for the third time, the bill was defeated. Then Thomas Kennedy returned to Washington County to stand for re-election, and now he was a marked man.
I tell you, Tom Kennedy wants to strike from our laws the last protection of true religion. This bill is a spawn of the devil. That's what it is. Where does he come from? Scotland, a country flooded with infidels. And I'll tell you where he's not going. He's not going back to the legislature. That's for you, Galloway. Get them both barrels. I tell the people of Washington County, I tell you, Tom Kennedy is half Jew, and the other half ain't Christian.
Shut up, Galloway.
Oh, shucks, I don't mind that. He's Kennedy's man. And what do you expect from a pig but a grunt?
He's not my man, Galloway. I don't need anyone to talk for me. Mr. Gabby, you can put down that shotgun. I got no weapons on me. You too, Joe Merrick. Seems to me our state has been advancing backwards for a long time. We seem to get 1 day older and 2 days worse.
Kennedy, I don't like you, and I don't like your bill.
Mr. Galloway, that's your inalienable right as an American.
Now, get out.
I'll say what I have to first.
I think, get out.
Let him talk, Galloway.
Thank you. I want you to understand that I'm against the religious test because I'm an American. That test reminds me that I'm a Protestant and that another man's a Catholic. That test divides us. That test justifies the Massachusetts Puritans who drove out the Quakers. That test justifies the Virginia bigots who drove out the Catholics.
Are you done, Mr. Kennedy?
No, I'm not done. Galloway, go home and pick up your Bible and show me one word in it that justifies the proscription of any man because of his religious sentiments.
Kennedy, don't tell me to read the Bible.
Galloway, at Christmas time, you say goodwill to men. To what men? Galloway, it's either to all men or to no men.
Kennedy, now we've heard enough.
No, you haven't. You can't take a religion which flames with justice and make it an excuse for bigotry. You can't use it to cover the narrowness of your own hearts. All right, Galloway, it's your meeting.
Washington County voted, and Thomas Kennedy was defeated for re-election. But in the other counties of Maryland, there were also changes. From Frederick County and Montgomery, from Carroll and Prince George counties, from Calvert and St. Mary's and Dorchester counties, there were new faces in the House of Delegates. For 1 year, Thomas Kennedy remained at home and carried the fight to his own constituency.
Kennedy, there's a new speaker in the House. They say he wants you back.
I'll be back. Come on, we've got work. I read to you from the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
Kennedy, what's Jefferson got to do with it?
Listen, our civil rights have no dependence on our religious professions any more than our opinions in physics or geometry. People of Washington County, we've got to prove to the whole world that it's wrong for men to have only enough religion to hate.
citizens of Washington County returned Thomas Kennedy to the Maryland legislature. Once again, he stood before the Speaker's table in the House of Delegates.
I speak as an American citizen. I beg leave only to remind this House that the honors of office in our republic are not assumed, but conferred. Not usurped, but bestowed by popular confidence. I say to you that to disqualify any class of citizens is for the people to disqualify themselves. This same principle of disqualification stains nations, tramples the charities of life, places arms in the hands of men for bloody war.
Mr. Kennedy, it is not expedient to make innovations in the Constitution of Maryland.
Sir, that is the language of prejudice. The American people were an innovation. The sun that shines each day is each day's innovation.
I am not convinced. Mr. Speaker, I say to the gentleman from Washington County that no man has a right to complain of being excluded from office if he does not conform to the prevailing religious sentiment of the state.
Answer that, Kennedy.
I do. What sort of God do you worship? Is the God you worship a fool? Does the smell of your persecution rise up to him as incense? I tell you again, opinion should be answered by opinion. Religion is the opinion of a man's conscience. The interposition of the state in matters of opinion is improper.
All right, Kennedy. Suppose we do exercise a compulsion. It's mild enough. We don't molest anyone.
It's not the degree of compulsion, sir, which renders it improper. The act of interposing your authority is improper. Religion is a matter between man and his God. Gentlemen, this is the right of conscience, which is so badly understood throughout the world, which I regret to say is so little understood here.
Gentlemen, this debate has taken up too much of the legislature's time.
Sir, the only way to close the debate is to vote for the bill.
Call the question, Mr. Speaker.
Gentlemen, the bill before the House of Delegates is to amend the Constitution by extending to all the citizens of Maryland the same civil rights and religious privileges that are enjoyed by all under the Constitution of the United States. Mr. Clerk, you may proceed with a roll call. Gentlemen, the question. Shall we pass the bill?
Harris? No. Gent?
No.
Garner?
No.
Grubb?
No.
Dalrymple?
Yes.
Hewlett?
No.
Kilgore?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Banning?
No.
Hawkins?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Estep?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Chapman?
Yes.
Thames?
Yes.
Rogerson?
Yes.
February 26, 1826. Thomas Kennedy's bill carried by the Maryland House of Delegates. Incident in the history of the American people. But the incident is not closed. The incident never closes. Every generation must make its own fight for freedom. Every generation in every age.
Lord, who shall dwell in thy tabernacle? Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord? Even he that hath clean hands and a pure heart, he shall receive the blessing from the Lord.
A prayer of thanksgiving. Blessed art thou, O Lord, who hast kept us in life and sustained us unto this day. Yes, a prayer of thanksgiving.
And now we present Rabbi Henry A. Shore of Temple Adath Israel, Bronx, New York.
In connection with the program you have just heard, Governor Herbert R. O'Connor of Maryland has written the following. Religious tolerance was the very basis of the Maryland way of life,
that there would be many in Maryland, even in colonial times, who felt as deeply on the subject as did Mr. Kennedy was only to be expected. Religious tolerance was the inspiration of the Maryland founding fathers, who first proclaimed to all the world freedom of the individual conscience. Marylanders of every age have taken pride in the fact that the principles laid down by Maryland's colonists first struck that sacred fire of tolerance, which later, in the hallowed American Constitution, was to blaze forth as a beacon light of hope for all the world to see. Governor O'Connor's remarks may be extended beyond the borders of his own state of Maryland. America is more than a great continent with happy homes and inexhaustible resources of riches and power and beauty. America is a radiant hope, an ecstatic vision, a sacrificial will, a valiant way of life. Overleaping the human barriers of race and creed, class and color, America is essentially a challenging faith in the brotherhood of man. Drawing their inspiration from the Holy Bible, the builders of our nation laid enduring foundations for a free and democratic society, which would serve as a pattern for a prejudice-cursed and tyranny-ridden world. Divine providence guided to these shores men and women of every nationality and belief. The Anglo-Saxon, the Teuton, the Celt, the Latin, the Slav, the Hebrew, all seeking in the New World the way to more abundant freedom and happiness, brotherhood and goodwill. The immortal names of Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, Wilson, Roosevelt are enshrined in the history and tradition of America. But equally significant has been the courage, the faith, and the sacrifice of the nameless citizens who, like Thomas Kennedy and Jeremiah Sullivan in the story so effectively dramatized on this program, fought unwearyingly against prejudice, ignorance, selfishness, and partisanship. Every one of us, wherever we may be, and whatever our station in life, can find daily opportunities lying close at hand, in our home, in church, in school, at work and at play, to bear sincere and eager testimony to our American faith in the brotherhood of man, which alone can unite our nation and assure for our people security and contentment. At this very hour, the statesmen of the United Nations are met for the supreme task of hammering out a peace that will, at long last, liberate the children of men from the fear and horror and tragedy of war. Such a peace can be achieved and maintained only as men and nations learn to work together for liberty and justice for all. We pray with all our hearts that God grant our beloved America the wisdom and the will, as she has the supreme opportunity to lead mankind through darkness to the light and through suffering to rejoicing.
Thank you, Rabbi Shore. Eternal Light is written by Morton Wishengrad. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Cadens. Featured as Thomas Kennedy was Horace Braham. Cantor Robert H. Siegel sang the liturgical music, and the entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. This program is a weekly presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations, and comes to you each week at this time under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light. This program is brought to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Today's broadcast is the third in a special series of 4 programs presenting the most popular Eternal Light scripts written by Morton Wishengrad. You will hear a repeat performance of Lillian Wald, starring the distinguished actress Jane Cowell as Lillian Wald.
This is the story of a nurse. It is also the story of a word, the Hebrew word, which stands equally with truth and equally with justice. The word, doko, charity. It is a story of how in the month of March, 1893, there came to the Lower East Side of New York City, to the crowded tenements and the swarming immigrants, the doko of Lillian Wald.
Can you tell me...
Hey, Ma! Hey, Ma!
Little boy, can you tell me where I can find...
Ma, throw me down a piece of bread and butter right away, Ma!
Oh, little boy, all I want to know...
My name's Vasilevsky.
Oh, how do you do? Mine's Lillian Wald. Can you tell me...
Did you hear me, Ma? Throw me down a piece of bread and butter!
My friend Vasilevsky, will you please direct me to number 13 Essex
Holy
Street?
cat lady, there's a fight down the corner. Hey, Ma, never mind a piece of bread and butter. I'm busy!
But please, little boy, I'm a nurse. Just tell me...
Sock 'em, pony, sock 'em!
But number 13 Essex...
Do me a favor, Noise. Hold something for me.
Oh, my friend Vasilevsky, number 13 Essex
Round the corner past the saloon. You can't miss it. Hold this for me, Noise.
Yeah, what is it? Little boy... Oh, Vasilevsky, what did you give me?
Hold it careful, lady. It's me glass eye.
If there be among you a needy man, one of thy brethren, thou shalt surely open thy hand unto him, and shalt surely lend him sufficient for his need in that which he wanteth. Introduction to life. On a day in March 1893, Lillian Wald climbed 5 dingy flights of stairs to assist a woman in the delivery of her 9th child.
Lillian Wald climbed down those 5 flights and did not know it. But something had touched her forehead.
Okay, Wald. Say it again, but say it slowly.
There's nothing to say, Brewster. Tenements, bedclothing airing in the windows, uncovered garbage cans, children fighting in the streets, push carts, people, millions of people, sick and dying, and so used to darkness they blink in the sunlight.
So that's where you're going?
That's where, Brewster.
And naturally, Lillian Wald knows what she's doing.
No, I don't, Brewster.
That's good. I hate people who are sure. Why don't you stay at the college? You and me, well, we're going to be a couple of the finest lady doctors New York ever saw.
But I've already told the dean that I've quit.
Well, if we can't be lady doctors, we're still a couple of middling fair graduate nurses, aren't we?
Oh, Brewster, you're not.
I am. If you're going to live down in the Lower East Side, so is friend Brewster.
Oh, my dear. Oh, you don't know what you're in for.
Miss Wald, Elder Brewster of the Mayflower was my ancestor. Stubborn people, these Brewsters.
Oh, no, we can't laugh about it. We mustn't. I was there one day, just one day. Brewster, did you ever hear the cry of a hungry child? Did you ever see a father trembling because he was half-starved? Because he had to give his food to his children? Well, I saw it. I delivered a baby in a tenement room where 10 people sleep at night. I saw the furniture they were breaking up for firewood.
I didn't know it was as bad as that.
It's bad. Yes, it's bad. And it's wonderful. Oh, my dear, the clothes they wore were thin and patched. There wasn't a chair to sit on, but the rotten wood of the floor was scrubbed clean. The clean, rotten floors of the hungry tenements. Brewster, that's why I'm going.
All day, nurse. Like that, he cries all day.
Well, Mrs. Mendelssohn, his temperature is 105 degrees.
I boiled the water to drink, like you tell me.
Yeah, I brought some alcohol. Rub him down with that every hour.
Yes, I rub him down. At nighttime, when he sleeps, I bend over my ear to his mouth. He sleeps so still, nurse, so terrible still.
Mrs. Mendelssohn, Miss Brewster and I are only nurses. Your baby needs a doctor.
Yes, nurse.
What's wrong, Mrs. Mendelssohn?
$10 a month, nurse. That's what my man brings in. $6.50 is for rent. $3.50 is for the table.
Well, but I know a fine doctor. And don't worry about the money.
No, Miss Wald. Not my baby.
Oh, but he's a famous specialist, Mrs. Mendelssohn.
No, Miss Wald. If you say he must be fine doctor. But many babies he sees, yes? So many babies. This one to the fine doctor. This one will be only a number. A nurse, he is my baby.
Well, all right. Give him the medicine I'm leaving. If he spits up the powder, give it to him again.
You will come tomorrow?
Yes, every day.
Oh, God bless you. Miss Wald, the people here, all the people, to you and Miss Brewster, we have the feeling... I'm an ignorant woman. I can't say the words good. But the way we feel to you, Miss Wald, it is not something a person can take away in his pocket.
The children wait in the kitchen, like you say, Miss Wald.
Yeah, that's good, Mr. Brobitsky.
Miss Wald, a fine lady like you should not have to do this thing.
Just hand me her hairbrush, would you please? And I'm afraid I'll need some more warm water in the basin.
Not for you to do, Miss Wald.
Oh, sit with your children, Mr. Brobitsky.
You see, I do not even cry. Who am I that I should cry? Am I the only one? Please, you will let me stay.
All right.
So many times you came. We never thanked you.
Her comb, please.
Yes. You have put curtains up in this room.
It's nice. Yes, Miss Wald. It's nice.
And the basin of water, please. Yes, thank you, Mr. Babitsky. Her hair's brushed, and she'll be clean soon.
Meis mitzvah.
Is that Hebrew?
Yes, the words are Hebrew.
When I was a girl, I learned some Hebrew words. I wish I could remember.
Some people remember words, but you do not forget the meaning of the words.
In a few minutes, you can call the children.
They will see their mother clean, her hair combed.
Yes, that's good, isn't it?
Yes, it's good. For the last time, they will see her. And because of you, they will remember her clean. It's very good.
Hey, Ma, throw me down a piece of bread and butter. Hello, nice.
Oh, good morning, Vasilevsky. Hey, don't you have a first name? Oh, of course you have.
Hey, Ma, throw down 2 pieces, one for nice. Hey, Ma, for her with chicken fat.
No thanks.
Oh, that's all right. Since you gave Ma wraps 6 times in paper, I'm learning sanitation.
Well, how does your new eye feel?
Oh, better than the old one. I like the color better. Next week I'm getting a job. I'll pay you back.
Oh, Vasilevsky, you're too little to work.
On Hester Street, nobody's too little to work.
It's a very fine day, eh, Miss Wald, eh, Vasilevsky?
Oh, good morning, Mr. Colucci. Vasilevsky, say good morning to the street cleaner. Come on.
Hi, Colucci. How's business? Picking up?
Oh, Vasilevsky.
Hey, sock him, Tony. Sock him again, Tony. Here, noise, hold me eye. Leave a little for me, Tony. Sock him, kid. Leave a little for me.
Oh, you mustn't mind him, Mr. Colucci.
Him? He gonna fight with my boy. Tony's mine. They fight together. Good boy.
Oh, I wish there was a place where they could play instead of street fighting.
Sure. Here, many things are bad. Terrible. In Italy, nurse, they say, Colucci, where you go? To promised land, I say.
Yes, I know.
Hey, I'm a Colucci, street cleaner. In Italy, me, Colucci, I read Dante. Here I find Dante, l'inferno. Per me si va nella città dolente. Per me si va nell'eterno dolore. Per me si va tra la perduta gente. Sì, signorina, la perduta gente. Lost people. Tenement, signorina. No air, no light. Live like animals. Filthy, dirty bambini, they die. L'inferno. Excuse, signorina. Better, Colucci, stop with the talk. Better to take the broom and sweep up.
Better to take the broom and sweep up. The Lower East Side, 1895. And it's Tzedakah of Lillian Wald. The Tzedakah, the word charity, derived from the word tzedek, justice and righteousness. And the charity of Lillian Wald, even as the righteousness of Isaiah. Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor that are cast out to thy house? When thou seest the naked, that thou cover him, and that thou hide not thyself from thine own flesh. For Lillian Wald, there was only the immediate task, and Miss Brewster laughed.
Definition. Lillian Wald is a state of energy surrounded by street cleaners, children with running noses, push-cart peddlers, street corner loafers, crying babies, and the affection of the East Side. Oh, you're tired, Brewster, aren't you? I guess so. Yes, that's what I thought. Look, Brewster, I've got the constitution of a horse. I wake up at all hours, climb stairs. Why, I'm getting fat on it. But not you. I know. I hate to quit now. But you have to. Don't you, Brewster? Lillian, what are you going to do? Do you know Jacob Schiff? He's very rich, isn't he? Oh, I saw a house on Henry Street. 265 Henry Street. Maybe with Mr. Schiff, and Mrs. John Crosby Brown and Mrs. Solomon Loeb and some others, maybe I can get that house on Henry Street. And instead of 2 nurses, 10 nurses, maybe more. Good. And perhaps a backyard for the children to play in. Why don't you talk to Mr. Schiff? Brewster, where's my hat? I'm on my way. Mr. Schiff, 1.5 million human beings are crowded in an area no bigger than a Kansas farm. There's tuberculosis, typhoid, diphtheria, and every disease in the book. Fires break out every day because of the overcrowding. The death rate is 26 per 1,000.
You think it's your duty to make it better?
Oh, I don't know what duty means. I haven't time for abstractions. I want to do the next thing that has to be done.
You'll wind up with a settlement house.
I want a nursing service, Mr. Schiff.
The Henry Street nurses?
Yes.
I like that. But one thing, there must be no labels. Everyone must be helped.
Oh, well, there are no labels, Mr. Schiff. There are only people.
Lillian Wald, you speak like a Talmudist. That's fine. I'll talk to Mrs. Brown. I think we can manage that house on Henry Street.
In 1895, the house on Henry Street was opened, and almost from the first day, it was more than a house. Here, Vasilevsky and Tony studied their homework. Here, Mr. Bobritsky brought his children to celebrate the Jewish festival of Sukkot. And here, Frederick, the Negro janitor, opened his folding chairs and made a house of worship for his people.
Oh, Miss Wald, ma'am, is it all right for me to set up a meeting house here?
Well, of course, Frederick. What denomination are you? Not that it makes any difference.
Well, ma'am, I'm ecclesiastical and loose. We just pray to God, that's all. And I've got me a sermon, too.
Have you, Frederick?
Yes, ma'am. They'll sit in them chairs, and I'll stand up. And I'll say, brethren, and sisters, this is just a simple church meeting house. But we never would have had it without Miss Wald. But it's ours, and I'm glad to see you all here. Now, I didn't ask the President of the United States to come, for he wouldn't have come. I didn't ask the Governor of New York to come, for he wouldn't have come. I didn't ask the Mayor to come, for he's busy with other things. But I did ask the Lord to come. And brethren and sisters, he's here.
Well, Miss Wald, there's a little boy outside who tells me we've got a flourishing settlement house.
Yes, that must be Vasilevsky, Mr. Schiff. I asked him to mail a letter for me. He walked 2 miles and delivered the letter himself. Then he licked the stamp off and gave it back to me.
Well, I expect the people who see you are just ashamed to be anything else but good, Miss Wald. Now, what's this trouble you have?
The needle workers.
What about them?
Oh, Mr. Schiff, I know what they earn. They can't support their families. Now they're talking work stoppage. Oh, there's going to be starvation here.
That must not happen.
Oh, that's why I called you. You know some of the employers. Bring them here. Let's try to talk it over.
You know something, Miss Wald?
What, Mr. Schiff?
I've heard some people say that a settlement house is a place to teach poor people to eat with forks, but you seem to be different. You want to put food on the forks. I'll ask a few gentlemen to come, but I don't know that they'll like it.
Mr. Cooper, don't you see the problem?
Miss Wald, Mr. Schiff asked me to come. I came. Now I'm going.
Cooper, you don't lose anything by staying and talking to Miss Wald.
Schiff, you see this watch? Every hour that passes costs me $10.
That's more than Mr. Brobitsky earns in a week.
Yes, well, I don't know the gentleman, Miss Wald. I dare say it's no more than he deserves.
Mr. Cooper, look out of that window.
What for?
Look out, Mr. Cooper, and tell me what you see.
Is this a game? I see some people.
Good. Now look in this mirror, the one above the table.
What do you see there?
What is this nonsense? Why, I see myself, of course.
Of course. The window is glass, and the mirror is glass. But just because the mirror is covered with a bit of silver, you stop seeing people and see only yourself.
Look here. What can I do about it? Business is business. It's a question of supply and demand.
It's a question of people who haven't enough to live on.
It's supply and demand, Miss Wall. I pay what the industry pays. Still...
Yes?
I know the men get very little. I'll tell you what I'll do.
We're listening, Mr. Cooper.
If what I pay them out of my business pocket isn't enough, well, I'll help with relief out of my charity pocket.
Mr. Cooper, I've been in homes where people pawn their furniture down to the last stick so they can pay us even 5 cents for our service. They insist on paying, even a penny, because they don't want charity. Not ours, and not yours.
Cooper, our whole world falls apart if we forget certain things.
Well, I don't know.
No, of course you know.
Do I, Schiff?
The verse in Amos. You read it in English, I read it in Hebrew. My friend Dolan reads it in Latin. But the labels disappear and words mean the same. Will two walk together except they have agreed? Will a bird fall in a snare upon the earth where there is no lure for it? That's what this house means. Two people who walk together and are agreed. Cooper, please think it over. I know you'll change your mind.
Happy years for Lillian Wald, seeing beyond the charity of almsgiving into the charity of justice. Now she understood the words of the psalmist. Happy is he that considereth the poor. And this consideration led her through the dingy tenements, past the coughing children playing amid the refuse of the slums, past the squalor of lives ground down by poverty, to the halls of the legislatures. And an American nurse sat modestly in her seat and waited to be heard.
Speaking now for the housing measure, Miss Lillian Wald. Miss Wald, have you any additional statistics?
No, sir. I don't understand statistics. For every number, read a human being. For every tenement on your list, read a place where people live. Read toilets in the backyard. Read sickness. Oh, let's not talk of mankind or of society. I don't know what they mean. Talk of a boy called Vasilevsky growing up in the gutter.
Miss Wald, we want facts, not emotion.
You can't squeeze emotion out of fact. Sir, I'm presenting facts.
Oh, you've told us that it isn't good to be poor.
Sir, I'm telling you it's dangerous to be poor.
To the poor, yes.
To you, sir. In the tenements, consumptive women manufacture cigarettes. They lick the cigarette papers with consumptive lips. You smoke, sir. It seems to me that I'm presenting a fact. And right now, you're suffering from an emotion. Oh, gentlemen, I haven't come here to scare you. It's our religious duty to build homes for our people, to give work to our people, to give them decent pay for that work, and the leisure to discover a world that isn't just work and eat and sleep. I hope you'll excuse me. I talk too much. Once a very wise street cleaner I knew said to me, Talucci talk too much. Better to take the broom and sweep the street.
You've done a good job. I'm going to do something for you.
Are you?
Sure. I'll tell my ma to throw you down a piece of bread and butter. And wax paper.
No, Vasilevsky. But if you want to do something for me, just tell me your first name. Please?
My mother was a patriot.
Well, that's fine. But what did she call you, Vasilevsky?
Vasilevsky.
No. Your first name.
Don't laugh, Noise, or I'll murder you. She called me Washington.
Well, that's a wonderful name.
Yeah? Go ahead, say it. I dare you.
Washington,
I'm so sorry.
See what I mean? Goodbye, Miss Wald.
Goodbye, Vasilevsky.
I get close. Reservation. Get close. Reservation. I get close.
The slums of Lillian Wald are nearly vanished, but the house on Henry Street still stands, and the nurses still go among the remaining tenements of New York and carry to the sick and to the needy the tzedakah of Lillian Wald. Tzedakah, the Hebrew word for charity, and the word that is greater than charity, the word righteousness.
We now present Mr. Louis M. Loeb of New York City, chairman of the current campaign of the Federation of Jewish Philanthropies. Mr. Loeb.
Rarely in these post-war days can one speak of progress without some misgivings. Yet I shall talk of progress, of a true progress which has developed since the days when Lillian Wald dreamed her dreams in the New York slums. The extremes of human misery have been rolled back. In our community, few people starve and none freeze. But the progress I see does not lie in this alone. We have moved forward from the practice of personal charity to the concept of community goodwill. Today, philanthropy is the organized expression of a community. It is not content to stay its hand after bare survival has been had. It presses onward instead to ensure so far as possible the well-being and the dignity of those it serves. To support her work, Lillian Wald appealed to Jacob Schiff and Mrs. Solomon Loeb. In those days, philanthropy was the prerogative of the millionaire. Today, philanthropy is no longer the privilege of the few. Rather, it is the duty of the many. Today, that same call to social responsibility, which Jews hear ringing in the voices of the Old Testament prophets, is answered by Jews throughout the nation by the creation and the support of innumerable community-serving institutions. Those institutions are known to you. You have encountered them in your daily lives. They include hospitals, community centers, child care and guidance agencies, homes for the aged, a great and penetrating network of organizations designed to aid men in the pursuit of happiness and of decent living. We have heard how Lillian Wald struggled for the people of the East Side without the aid of such institutions, of how difficult and often hopeless her task was, of how she was led to perceive the absolute need of that organized kindliness which today I have referred to for the proof of progress. Remembering her story, I wonder what Lillian Wald's reaction would be if she could be with us today to see the evidences of the new philanthropy. I can imagine the inspired and wonderful delight which would lighten the face of that noble woman. Certainly she would tell us that we, the Jews of America, have chosen the right way and urge us at all cost to continue in that way.
Thank you, Mr. Loeb. Today's story was entitled Lillian Wald, the third in a special series of 4 programs featuring the most popular Eternal Light scripts written by Morton Wishingrad. Miss Jane Cowell was starred as Lillian Wald. The music was composed by Morris Mamorsky and conducted by Milton Katims. Cantor Robert H. Siegel was heard in the liturgical music. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. This program is a weekly presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations, and is brought to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation, and it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
The eternal light.
National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light. This program is brought to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our play today, entitled Chronicle of the Dead, was written for radio by Milton Wayne and is based on the book Experiment E by Leon Chalet. Featured in the cast is Juan Hernandez, as prisoner number 9335.
The greatest and strangest criminal trial in history is ended. The 284 long days of prosecution and defense are over. On Monday next, in the International Palace of Justice in Nuremberg, Germany, 21 Nazi leaders will stand to receive the verdict of the world. The charge is murder.
Chronicle of the Dead was one item in the massed, blood-drenched pages of accusation.
The prisoner, Jew, number 9335, Block 38, Wing A, Sachsenhausen concentration camp, reports himself present.
Your name, sir?
My name? Yes, I had a name, and it was taken from me. And now I have it again. Chalet, Your Honor. Heim lebt Chalet.
Come forward and be seated, Herr Chalet.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You have testimony to present before this world court?
This is the fulfillment of a vow. From the moment of my arrival in Sachsenhausen, I resolved that I would remember everything. If I ever would escape, I would tell what I had seen. I lived for this day of reckoning. I ask that what I have to tell be cast into the balance.
You may begin your testimony.
What I have to tell is not only of beatings and tortures and murders, for of these matters you have heard much and often, but I wish to tell also of what men can and cannot do when they must do something or die, of what men can bear when their spirit and faith are strong. I shall begin. It was August 1939. The shadow of war lay over Berlin. In wartime, every man belongs in his home. My home was Poland. On the morning of Saturday, August 26th, I went to the Polish consulate.
My daughter Gucha was with me. The waiting room was filled with anxiety. For a long time, no one paid any attention to us. Then a minor official came in. Each word was an effort.
Everyone must act according to his own judgment. The situation is very grave. But that is all I can say.
Silently, we left the consulate.
Father, what do you think?
Think about what, Gucha?
The evening train for Warsaw?
It may not get across the frontier. Goebbels has stirred up the people against the Polish atrocities.
And if we stay here, we'll be interned.
We had too much faith that there would be peace. Our friends who left last week were right.
Father, there's still a way out. We can fly to London.
A dream, my daughter.
Why?
Because we have no English visas. The British consulate has been closed for several days.
But, Father, yesterday Poland and England concluded a defensive alliance. And we do have passports.
For Poland, not for England.
I know, Father, but do you think that England will turn away Poles cut off from their own country?
Yes, there is a frail hope.
A real hope. You've been to England many times. You've done business there. And even if they don't let us stay, we can get to Poland by way of Scandinavia. Father, you must go for airplane tickets at once.
On Sunday, August 27th, at 6 p.m., I flew from Berlin to England. The English immigration officers ordered me sent back to Germany. On Monday, August 28th, at 2:30 p.m., in the same plane, I landed back in Berlin again. For 3 days, I was held in jail and questioned over and over again. On the fourth day, Thursday, August 31st, at 4 p.m., I was released. In the gray dawn that followed, Hitler's armies attacked Poland. My daughter Gucha and I became enemy aliens. And on September 13th at 5:30 a.m., I was arrested. At 7:30, the Poles who had been rounded up were taken from the police station and packed into a truck. The police assisted with truncheons and rifle butts. Around the truck stood a crowd of women and working men and children from a nearby school. In the front row stood Gucha. When she saw me in the truck, she dodged around the policeman and ran up close.
Head high, Papa.
The truck began to move. As we drove down the street, I heard her voice again.
Head high, Papa. Do you hear me? Head high.
At the Oranienburg station, we were clubbed out of the train. The road to the concentration camp was 2 miles long, strewn with our dead and injured. Patrol cars gathered up the victims. Dead or alive, the total number of prisoners had to be delivered. In Germany, order prevailed.
The prisoners are all accounted for?
Ja, Herr Kommandant.
Good. I shall bid them welcome. I must commend you, Friedrich. The corpses are piled most neatly.
Thank you, Herr Kommandant.
Yes, indeed. Ruthless, but neat. Swine, here in Sachsenhausen, you are not in a penitentiary or a prison. You're in a place of instruction. Order and discipline are here the highest law. If you ever want to see freedom again, you must submit to severe training. Here there's no compromise, no mercy. Here we sweep with an iron broom. Dismissed.
We were clubbed to our barracks. 30 graves in a cemetery occupy the same space which, in our barracks, was assigned to 165 living men. That night, the block Führers visited us. They were armed with steel rods and clubs and boards. 7 men died that night, our first in Sachsenhausen.
Stop that crying. Don't be martyrs. Don't let them break your spirit.
If we had any spirit, we'd take our own lives.
No, that's what they want. Not our lives, because then they could have shot us against the wall.
There are dead men in this room. You saw them die.
The Nazis want the pleasure of torturing us, of gloating over our pain, of watching our spirits break.
I can't see in this darkness, comrade, but you're right. Although we are victims every day, we must not offer ourselves as victims. We must not give up our hope. Hope is the greatest treasure a man possesses. Faith in God is the key to it. Enough of tears, comrades, enough.
At evening roll call the next day, the Block Führers and the ranking SS officers came to look over the Polish assassins. They commented with pleasure on our bloody faces. Then began the torture that drew no blood.
Which of you is a rabbi? What? Is there no rabbi among you? Room senior, which of these swine is a rabbi?
I don't know, Herr Blockführer.
All right, then. There's no rabbi here. But if I find out that you've lied, we'll make short work of you. Which of you has ever been in prison? Now speak up and tell the reason.
Embezzlement, Herr Blockführer.
An automobile accident, Herr Blockführer.
Of course you know that all Poles are criminals, don't you?
We held our breath. Our throats went dry with fear. The stillness was uncanny. The Block Führer waited motionless. Suddenly he raised both fists.
What? You won't answer, you swine, you dog, scum?
In each of us, pride struggled with the instinct of self-preservation. In a few moments, they would leap and trample us beneath their boots.
Answer me! Jawohl. All of you answer!
All the shame and torture that had been inflicted on us, all our misery, all our anguish, found release in that cry.
Now all of you repeat 3 times. All Poles are criminals. Together and loud.
The law of the concentration camp was all for one. If we did not answer, the punishment would fall on all 3 Polish blocks, on some 800 human beings. As if each of us had arrived at the same conclusion, the cry rang through the camp.
All Poles are criminals. All Poles are criminals. All Poles are criminals.
Finally, we were hounded back into the barrack. It was pitch dark. We found our straw sacks and laid them out on the floor. It was too late for bread and soup. Each groped his way to his own place. The day had been hot, and now the air in the barrack was close and oppressive. The room was so crowded that we had to lie on our sides, our bodies pressed against each other. Sweat, breath, and body smells mixed together, but all the windows and doors remained tightly shut. We were too tired to moan or weep. There was a blessed stillness in that deaf room.
Block 38 present for roll call. 223 men. 7 dead.
7 dead? That's too few. A little hot today, eh, Poles? But that's nothing. In the winter, you make up for it by freezing.
9 dead, Herr Blockführer.
Only 9? Dogs are croaking too slow. Move 2 of the Polish wings in together. Perhaps we can speed up the smothering of the vermin.
23 dead, Herr Blockführer.
That's better. We must help nature along. Much better.
The evening of our 9th day in Sachsenhausen was the beginning of Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. Holiest day in the year, the day for which we prepare in prayer and penance. But in the camp, praying was strictly forbidden and cruelly punished. Of course, a man can carry God in his heart and pray silently, alone. But our souls hungered for comfort of the spoken words of the prayer with which we had grown up. Grief and depression held us with a force we had not felt before. Only our gasping for breath showed there was any life left in us.
Achtung! Block 38 all present, Herr Blockführer.
Swine! What holiday do you keep today? You there. You with the closed eye, step forward. Tell me, dog, what does this Day of Atonement mean?
On the Day of Atonement, a Jew must earn the forgiveness of his fellow men against whom he may have sinned. A Jew must fast, do penance, and pray for forgiveness of all the sins he has knowingly or unknowingly committed.
So the hogs must fast. Good. Tomorrow you get no food so you can celebrate properly. And now we shall help you do penance. Not a sound out of you or you'll be shot. We'll be back later.
No, you must not cry. We must show them how much men can bear when their spirit and their faith are strong. It has always been the way of our fathers to put spirit above matter. We must do the same. This is our duty. But hope is ours, too. Are we not in God's hands even here? Cast away doubt, for doubt destroys you. Build not on your own reason, for it must fail here. Only hold fast your truth in God and believe, for faith makes men strong.
The room was heavy with pain and silence. The moon shone through the window. In that white, dead light we lay like corpses. All at once, the oppressive silence was broken by the mournful, ancient Kol Nidre, prayer for the Day of Atonement. I raised myself up, and I saw there, close to the wall, the uplifted face of an old man. Softly, to himself, he sang the familiar, deeply moving words. The corpses came to life. Quietly they sat up. All eyes turned to the moonlit face. Suddenly I heard again the voice of my daughter.
Head high, Papa. Do you hear me? Head high. Head high.
Now there was a silent, soaring exultation among us, which men can experience only when they have fallen as low as we had fallen, and then, through the power of a deathless prayer, have awakened once more to the world of the Spirit. At midnight, as they had promised, the Blockführers came again. They left 5 dead. 16 days of bestial cruelties, of agonized deaths. And then, on the 17th day...
Achtung! My name is Carl. I'm the new room senior of Block 38. I know what it's like. Keep calm and try to maintain discipline. Have eyes in the back of your heads, for here danger is everywhere. I'll be back later.
A human being. They sent us a human being.
From thankfulness and wretchedness, we began to cry, like children. There was no shame.
But how can it be? What has happened?
There must be a reason. Perhaps the death list of the Polish prisoners has made some foreign journalist ask questions in Berlin. Perhaps that is the reason.
Then the change won't last long. What will happen now?
Yes, now. What will happen now?
I think I know what you've been asking. You will remain isolated. You will not be sent to work, and you must spend the whole day inside the barrack. From today on, you're to sit cross-legged instead of lying on your faces. Appoint a foreman to keep order. It'll save you from unnecessary punishment. Seat yourself so that when you jump up at Achtung, straight rows will be formed at once. The more military your behavior, the better you'll get on.
But we're civilian prisoners.
Of course, so am I. My education period has lasted since 1935. I was a worker who hated the Nazis. I'm still being educated. I'm no hero, but I shall do what I can.
The Blockführers paid us only casual visits. Then they resumed operations. At first only beatings. Then it became murder in the old style. It reached a climax on October 6, 1939, when the Allies ignored Hitler's peace offer. Most of us were already asleep when Carl suddenly opened the door.
Achtung!
Rushed into the room and assembled in the middle. They carried implements of murder.
The whole Polish pack. Form a circle and run.
Quickly we formed a circle. There was not room enough to run, so we pushed, shoved, and struck each other as we went around. And in the middle of the circle, our tormentors set the pace with their weapons. When enough men lay trampled or beaten to death on the floor, the horde disappeared. The circus act was repeated in the other 2 Polish blocks. Then Karl came in.
Always remember this. In the struggle between man and beast, man, in spite of torture and death, man in the long run is victorious.
Have you finished your speech, Karl?
I have finished, Herr Blockführer.
Good. I dislike to think I interrupted. But since you say you have finished, let us make sure you'll have nothing more to say.
And when I passed by thee, and saw thee polluted in thine own blood, I said unto thee, By thy blood thou wilt live. Yea, I said unto thee, By thy blood thou wilt live.
Days and weeks and months of torture, starvation, and death. Days of miracle that some still lived. Days of miracle in which 3 men were released from death to leave Germany for a neutral country. And the hope of this miracle became the staff on which I leaned. Perhaps through my daughter, this true miracle of release would one day come to me. And the days of darkness and death bore down on us. 219 days.
Saleh! Number 9335.
Here.
Quick, to the political division. Follow me.
The prisoner, Jew, number 9335, Block 38, Wing A, reports himself present.
Go in there.
I went up to the door and opened it. One thought kept going through my mind. The report. Make a correct report. I stepped over the threshold. I opened my mouth. An hallucination rose before me, and I couldn't speak. In the middle of the room, I saw my daughter. I must pull myself together. This is the office of the Gestapo political director. I must make my report. The prisoner, Jew. I knew exactly how it went, but I couldn't bring it out. The apparition was moving toward me.
Good morning, Papa. I've come to bring you good news.
After the First World War, a stricken world built a monument to the unknown soldier. Now the world must build a monument to the unknown martyr. Within the hearts of men, a light must burn eternally for the nameless millions who suffered and perished in the cities, villages, ghettos, and concentration camps of this tormented world.
And now, we present a talk by Rabbi Irving Miller of the Congregation Sons of Israel of Whitmere, Long Island. Rabbi Miller.
That fateful Day of Atonement, about which you have just heard, and every day, were a matter of life and death to the prisoners of the Nazis. So do the high holy days speak to Jews everywhere of life and death. Indeed, the most poignant prayer of the New Year's Day and of the Day of Atonement reads, On the New Year's Day it is inscribed, and on the Day of Atonement the decree is sealed, who shall live and who shall die. On these days of judgment, man acknowledges God himself to be the supreme judge. And yet from the beginning of time, man has assumed this aspect of divinity and has undertaken to pass the judgment of life and death on his fellow men. In recent years, this judgment has been bestial. Happily, those cruel judges who knew neither justice nor mercy have been destroyed. At this very moment, in the city of Nuremberg, civilization is about to render its final verdict upon them. Yet our task is far from finished. To my fellow Jews, may I say, you will be judged by God and man in accordance with the measure in which you labor zealously to bring life and the blessings of life to your people here, abroad, and in Palestine. To all men of goodwill everywhere, may I say, all men are judged, not on one day of the year, but on all days, by the manner in which we earn the forgiveness of those of our fellow men against whom we may have sinned. All of us have sinned against men and women throughout the world whom we have allowed to suffer the ravages of war, of racial discrimination, of poverty, and of ignorance, against people whom we have permitted to remain homeless, against people whom we have denied the opportunity to begin life anew, against people who more than a year after victory we permit to languish in the concentration camps of Europe. Humbly do I pray for a truly happy and peaceful new year, not only for my people, but for all people. May we all, as free people, enjoy the blessings of freedom in a free world.
Thank you, Rabbi Miller. Written by Milton Wayne and was based on Leon Chalet's book, Experiment E. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Catums. Cantor Robert H. Siegel sang the liturgical music. Featured as prisoner number 9335 was Juano Hernandez. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. Beginning the week of September 29th, this program will be heard at a new hour. Please consult your local station's program schedule for the new time. This program is a weekly presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations, and comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The eternal light.
National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light. This program is brought to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our play today, adapted for radio by Joseph Mindel, is based on the story The Town of the Little People by Sholem Aleichem. Featured in the cast is Roger DeCoven as the narrator.
Do not expect to find the town of Kasrilyevka on any map in this world. It existed only in the geography of Sholem Aleichem. But though the name was fictitious, the people of Kasrilyevka were real. They were the Jews who lived in 1,000 hamlets scattered throughout the Russia of 3 generations ago. Their world was the world of Sholem Aleichem. And if you would understand it, you must first understand Kasrilyevka. What shall I tell you about the town of Kasrilyevka and the little people who lived in it? That there were good people as well as bad ones, learned and ignorant, wits and fools. These things mean nothing, for they are true of every place. Instead, I will tell you this. Kasrilyevka, the town of the little people, was also a town of poor people. Now do you understand? Of course not. Therefore, I will tell you a little story. One day, a Kasrilyevkite grew tired of starving in Kasrilyevka and went out into the world to seek his fortune. He wandered far and wide and finally reached Paris. There, naturally, he wanted to see Baron Rothschild. For how can a Jew come to Paris and not visit Rothschild? He knocked at the door. The butler opened it.
What do you want?
I want to see Baron Rothschild.
You want to see the Baron?
Why not? Why not? I have eyes, haven't I?
Then look at your coat. It's torn.
You fool. If I had a good coat, would I have come to Paris?
That's enough out of you. Clear away from the door.
Now, wait a minute. Tell the Baron this is no ordinary beggar. Tell him I've brought a piece of goods such as he can't find in Paris for any amount of money. Tell him I have eternal life to sell.
The door closed in his face. But soon it opened again. And he was brought to a room where, behind a huge desk, sat the millionaire.
Sholem Aleichem.
Aleichem Sholem.
Take a seat. Where do you come from?
I come from Kasrilyevka.
And what good news do you bring?
Well, Mr. Rothschild, they say in our town that you are not so badly off. If I only had half of what you own, or only a third, you would still have enough left. And honors, I imagine you don't lack either, for people always look up to a man of riches. Then, what do you lack? Only one thing.
One thing?
One thing. Eternal life. And that, Mr. Rothschild, is what I have to sell you.
Well, let's get down to business. What will it cost me?
It will cost you $1 million. No. It'll cost you 300 rubles.
Is that your best price?
My very best. I could have said a lot more than 300, but I said it, so it's final.
All right. Agreed. My secretary will give you the money. Now, tell me the secret of eternal life.
If you want to live forever, Mr. Rothschild, leave Paris and come to live in Kasrilyevka.
But why Kasrilyevka?
There you can never die. Because since Kasrilyevka has been a town, no rich man has ever died there.
No rich man ever died in Kasrilyevka. What of it, you say? There are poor people everywhere. Then I must explain further. Poverty has many faces and many aspects. Of one man, it may be said with pity.
Poor Chaim. He can hardly feed his wife and children, the beggar.
Or of another man with contempt.
Floyd is nothing but a penniless tramp.
But there is a third kind of pauper of whom it is said almost with admiration.
Oh, he is a Castril.
A Castril is no ordinary pauper. He does not allow poverty to degrade him. He meets it like a man and a hero, and he laughs. He looks at the rich and says,
"You think the world is yours because you have the money? Oh, wait. I'll show you what I can do with poverty."
He is uncrushed and unabashed. In short, he is a Castril, and he lives in Castrilia. There's Mortal, the porter, for example. He delivered a package one day to a wealthy home in Yahupit. When he returned to his own home, he said to his wife,
"Bela, there's something I want.
May all my enemies not have the things there are for you to want."
When I came to this rich man's house, the family was having breakfast. Guess what they were eating?
Diamonds from plates of gold.
An omelet fried in butter. They ate with such a smacking of lips. I tell you, it gave me an appetite to taste an omelet. Bela, I want an omelet.
Omelets are not for you and me.
Why not? If it's good enough for the rich, it's not too good for Muddle. Make me an omelet.
Fool. Is there butter for frying an omelet?
No butter? Then make it without. I'm not particular so long as it's an omelet.
And where will I get eggs to make an omelet?
Make it without eggs.
All I have is flour.
Stop bothering me with kitchen problems and make me an omelet from flour.
So Bela made an omelet without eggs and without butter.
Here, Mr. Millionaire. Here's your omelet.
What kind of horrible mess is this? It tastes like warmed-up dough.
It's the omelet you wanted, Muzzle.
And this is what they smack their lips about in Yahupit? I tell you, Bela, there's no accounting for the tastes of the rich.
There you have a typical Castril. He insists that the only difference between a rich man and himself is the small matter of a few thousand rubles. Not that he is in love with his poverty, far from it. As Mortal says,
work is noble, but money is comfortable.
Money. Money is the world's curse.
May God smite me with it as he smote Naaman with leprosy, and may I never be cured.
But what's the use? Only a fortunate few are so smitten. The rest, well, the rest do not eat omelets made with real eggs. Shall I tell you a strange thing? To the little people of Castriljevka, that is not of great importance. The main thing is to go on living. And so Mortal carries bundles on his back, Ezreal, the fisherman with the fiery eyes, hoarsely cries his wares, and Yossel of the dry goods store teaches the business to his son.
Now, for the peasants who come in from the country, Schleimer, courtesy blended with firmness. That's the proper manner. And above all, 2-10. Remember that. 2-10.
And with this cryptic watchword, Yossel turns to a customer, a heavy peasant woman wrapped in a voluminous shawl.
Good morning, Katrina. What do you need today? Towels? I have them. All sizes, all colors, all shapes. But only one quality, the best. Excuse me, Katrina. That tablecloth under your arm. It belongs here on the counter. Unless, of course, you want to pay for it.
These visitors from the country must be watched, for they have a way of taking things to their bosoms deftly and casually. And therefore, the slogan is
2-10. Remember, Schleimer, 2 eyes against 10 fingers.
That's how the little people of Castriljevka do business. A feeble, meager business. A gust of wind could wipe them all out. Whenever you meet them, they're scurrying like rabbits, this one here, that one there. They never have time to stop.
What are you hurrying for?
Well, it's like this. If we hurry, we think we might run into something. Maybe earn a few pennies.
But how do you live?
How do we live? Who knows? We make a living.
How do you call that making a living?
Well, it's better than nothing.
You know what it means when a Kastrilivka says it's better than nothing? I'll tell you. Yerachmiel Moses, blind in one eye and nearsighted in the other, used to wear spectacles. One day, someone pointed out,
Yerachmiel Moses, you're wearing spectacles without lenses.
I know. But it's better than nothing, isn't it?
the people of Kastrilivka are pessimists. Cheerful, not without hope, but still pessimists. They expect the worst, and they're seldom disappointed. But when the worst comes to pass, they survive. It's better than not surviving, they say, and go on living. They have not forgotten how to sing, nor how to laugh. If sometimes the laughter has a bitter edge, well, after all, Kastrilivka is not the same as paradise. Yet, in another way, they possess great wealth. For the little people, poor in worldly goods, are rich in their faith and in the luster of their tradition.
How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, and thy dwelling places, O Israel. Lord, in the abundance of thy loving kindness will I come into thy house.
The wooden huts merge with the kingly tents of Jacob, and the little synagogue with the temple of Solomon. For Jerusalem is closer than Petrograd, and the wandering in the wilderness is no more distant than last year's pogrom. These are not things laid on the surface. They are rooted deep in the life of Kastrilivka. Perhaps the resistance of its people rests in their knowledge of the covenant made long ago with their forefathers. But don't speak to mortal about covenants. He understands the matter, if at all, in a simpler, more direct form.
What's the matter, Yotto?
Ah, Matu, woe is me. Trouble.
It can't be so terrible. Stop worrying.
It's easy for you to give advice.
Of course it's easy, but it's good advice. Just think, Yotto. When Joseph lay in the pit, what happened?
Oh, don't bother me with ancient history, Muscle. My troubles are in the present.
Sure, but what harm is there in answering a simple question? Now tell me, what happened when Joseph lay abandoned in the pit?
Affections for Midian came along.
And when the children of Israel were oppressed in Egypt?
Moses appeared.
And when Haman threatened?
Mordecai arose.
There, you see? Now stop worrying about your troubles. You know the old saying.
What saying?
Just leave a little to God.
Once there came to Kastrilivka a Haman of its own. To be accurate, his name was Agamemnon Afonaganovich. But as Motel said,
just try to roll it around in your mouth. Agamemnon Afonaganovich. No. You'll have to have another name.
And the other name came naturally enough. You see, the man was the new provincial inspector. And by his actions, he soon earned the right to the name.
Haman Ivanovich. May he hang like his namesake.
Hear ye. By order of His Excellency, the Provincial Inspector, it is decreed that Jews must not open their stores before noon. Hear ye.
Many decrees were issued, and their burden fell on all the Jews of Kastrilivka, from Sholem Bear the richest to the poorest of the poor, Beryl with the red hair. This Beryl made wine out of raisins and sold it to earn a living.
Beryl, a bottle of wine for the Sabbath, if you don't mind.
Why should I mind, Muttle? But let me tell you something. Starting today, the wine I sell is illegal.
What do you mean, illegal?
Our new inspector, Haman Ivanovich, has decided that no one is permitted to make wine without a license.
Be so good as to give me a glass, Beryl. A sip of wine before I go home can do no harm. Now, if you continue to make wine, Beryl, you will certainly be punished.
What will he take away from me? The hole in my pocket. What do you think of my wine?
Haman Ivanovich says it's illegal. I simply say, in all friendliness, you understand, I say it's not very good wine.
Perhaps you are both right. But my wine has at least one virtue.
It has?
Of course. It's cheap.
So Beryl continued to sell his wine, and as the saying goes, he starved regularly 3 times a day. But even to him there came the provincial inspector, Haman Ivanovich.
You there, Beryl, the winemaker.
If you mean me, Your Excellency, I'm called Beryl the Redhead. People say my hair is more distinguished than my wine.
But you make wine?
As such as it is.
Without a license?
Without a license, Your Excellency.
You're a cheerful pauper.
What do I have to worry about? I need little. I have nothing. Almost a perfect balance.
Insolent, too. You'll be dealt with. But first my men will search your house.
With pleasure, Your Excellency. Only one thing.
Yes?
Whatever they find, gold or silver or government bonds, let's divide it 50-50.
What could the people of Kasfrilevka, the little people, do against the soldiers of the Tsar? Yet when the modern Haman attacked in another direction, they found means to defend themselves. The attack began with another decree.
By order of His Excellency, the Provincial Inspector, it is decreed that no Jewish teacher may hold classes without a special permit.
A committee of the elders of Kasfrilevka went to see the inspector.
The decree is clear.
Except in one respect, Your Excellency.
What is that?
How is the teaching permit obtained?
Oh, that. Simple. By paying the required fee, 250 rubles a year. Well, what's happened to your tongues? Have you nothing to say?
Yes, Your Excellency. Our children will be taught.
You mean you pay the fee?
I didn't say that. I said our children will be taught.
Kommet alle på.
Kommet alle på.
Kommet baseball.
Kommet baseball.
Louder, children, louder. You can't learn if you whisper. Kommet alle på.
Kommet baseball.
Quiet! You there.
Are you the teacher?
Yes, Your Excellency.
Have you a permit to teach?
No.
Arrest this man. Close the school.
You up there on the roof! Who are you? Me, Your Excellency. I'm the new teacher. Stop it! Stop what, Your Excellency? Don't sit quiet!
Sergeant, arrest him. And now no one in the town on any roof. Sergeant, do you hear voices?
Voices, Your Excellency?
Yes.
Pardon me for saying so, but perhaps Your Excellency has been working too hard.
I'm not imagining things, you fool. Listen.
I do hear voices.
They seem to be coming from beneath the ground. Here, open this cellar door.
Continue, children. Only louder. If you want to learn anything.
Good morning, Excellency. I'm ready.
Ready for what?
To go to prison with the other teachers.
I don't want you in prison. I give up. If you must teach these pupils of yours, then for heaven's sake, teach them. Only...
Yes?
Don't make so much noise.
people defeated Haven Ivanovich. It would be difficult to say who was Mordecai. Perhaps there were 100 Mordecais. And perhaps when it comes to Torah, every Jew is a Mordecai. For Kasrilivka was defending what it held most precious. Consider what estates have Mortal or Yossel or Ezreal the fisherman to leave to their children. What lands, what gold and silver. None of these, but a faith and a tradition, and the knowledge and wisdom to be acquired by study. And is it not written, he who learns and does not teach is like a myrtle growing in the desert, sterile and fruitless. This is Kasrilivka, whose length and breadth you can see in half a glance. Its people are little people. Their struggle never ends. And if they do not win, neither have they been defeated. For they have built out of their tradition a house that still endures. As you look at this town of the little people, there may come to your mind the old verses, how goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, and thy dwelling places, O Israel.
If you would like a copy of the script you have just heard, you may obtain one without cost by writing to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. And now we present a brief talk by Mr. Frank G. Marshall, Vice President of the American Association for Jewish Education, speaking from Chicago. Mr. Marshall.
The week of October 8th has been set aside as Jewish Education Week. It is therefore appropriate to remind ourselves that through the ages the Jew has made learning, study, education the most important matter in his daily life. To this day, in every religious service, we repeat the admonition in Deuteronomy that the Word of God must be taught diligently to our children. The determination of the humbler people of Kasrilivka that despite poverty, despite oppression and persecution, their children would be taught, is in keeping with the finest traditions of the American people. The Kasrilivka Jew knew that the question of survival and adjustment was intimately related to self-knowledge and self-appraisal. What is the value and significance of Jewish education to the American Jew? Briefly stated, Jewish education gives us a knowledge and understanding of the history and culture of the Jewish people, its religious concepts, its traditions and customs, its art and folklore, its passion for justice and mercy, its stubborn belief that the world can and must be made a better place in which to live, not for Jews alone, but for all peoples. Jewish education enables us to know that the great moral, ethical, and social laws of our day were cradled in the hills of Judea, that the concepts of liberty and freedom found expression in the writings of the Jewish prophets and sages. It enables us to perceive the birth of the noble idea that all men are created equal, and to apprehend the source of the fundamental social law that all men should love their neighbors as themselves. From Jewish education we learn, too, that the founders of our great republic drew their inspiration and zeal for a democratic way of life from the teachings in the Holy Scriptures and the Talmud. Through the medium of Jewish education, we derive a feeling of pride, of comfort, of security, a sense of belonging to a people which has contributed much to the advancement of society. Jewish education points out the compatibility of ancient Israel and modern America. In America, each group is responsible for the moral and religious training of its members.
It is therefore incumbent upon us to furnish the Jewish child with a spirit and morale which emanates from a thorough and intelligent Jewish education. Only by so doing can we meet the responsibilities imposed upon us by the highest conceptions of American citizenship.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. The Eternal Light program you have just heard was adapted for radio by Joseph Mindell and was based on the story The Town of the Little People from the book The Old Country by Sholem Aleichem. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Caton. Liturgical music was sung by cantor Robert H. Segal. Featured in the cast was Roger DeCoven as narrator. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. If you would like a free copy of the script, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This program is a weekly presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations and comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.